Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Umineko. We are currently chilling out in a gazebo in the middle of a typhoon talking to our sort of girlfriend. I'm pretty sure George likes Shannon, or what was her name? I forget her name already. They used it twice. I remember Shannon, alright? And whatever her real name is. He sort of likes her, but they're sort of not admitting to it.
君に
Right.
見せたいものがあって
You have something you want to show us? And we've just had like a nice heart-to-heart about Shannon eventually moving on from her work as a servant at the mansion, which is fair because she's been here like 3 times as long as any of the other people in her program, because it seems like she doesn't really have any goal or destination in life. I have something I want to show you. What could it be? A turn-based RPG like Divinity is a very different game from Diablo. But it's fun. It's fun, so it's a good game. But I don't think they're directly comparable other than like maybe aesthetics. Because if you pause the game, it would probably look the same. It'd probably look the same with like supporting characters. What would it be? George, who'd been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. See, even they still refer to her as Shannon. George timidly searched through his pocket. Something got caught in the depths of his pocket, and just like the stuttering George, it took a while to get it out. It was a very small box. Really? Really? Is this how we're going? Emotional engine, full drive? A small box covered in a deep blue velvet. Oh boy. That peculiar shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. A very specific shape? Interesting. Shannon had prepared her heart somewhat, certain beforehand that this was going to be what he'd been planning. Okay. Even so, when she actually saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. George opened the small box, took something out, and held it out for Shannon to take. Oh boy. I was not thinking we were going this way. I want you to take this. Well, that's one way to phrase it. I couldn't accept something so valuable. Yeah, okay, Shannon. I was not positive we were going this way. I was thinking we were just going to have a nice rendezvous because we didn't know how close they were, but alright. Alright. You can't take it? Oof. No. I'm unworthy of such a thing. That's your excuse? There we go, that's what her name is, Sayo. Well, George, you might be saying sayonara to Sayo soon, so, good luck. Sayo, this isn't a request, wait, what? It's an order. Take this ring. Okay. That awkward moment when you're trying to propose to your servant who claims to be, quote, I quote, furniture. And then that she would only ever do with anything if ordered. Alright. An awkward courtship to be sure, but here we are. Well, if it's an order, I can't disobey. That's right. Well done. Shannon, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand while still staring at the ground. That's gotta be an awkward marriage proposal if I ever saw one. No, will you marry me? Just take this. The ring wasn't a simple accessory, it was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under special circumstances. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend not on an order but on Sayo's will. So from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow without using words.
わかるね。
Do you understand?
ど、
How do I...
どうすれば。
How do I...
もうこれ以上は命令じゃないから、僕は君に命令はしない。
I won't order you further, so this isn't an order.
でも、指輪は指にするものだからね。
But a ring is something you put on your finger after all. This is your phrasing for your marriage proposal. I'm not gonna ask you or order you to do anything, but a ring is something you put on your finger. Oh boy. I mean, I might be awkward in real life sometimes, but even I could probably get out a will you marry me? A stutter it out. Come on, dude.
気に入ってくれたなら、好きな指につけてくれればいい。
If you like it, you can put it on any finger you choose. Shannon had only pretended not to know. She already understood what he wanted her to do. She was standing at a huge crossroads of her life.
もうこんな時間だね。
Look how late it's gotten. The rain stopped. At least the background music indicating rain stopped. That might just have faded into the background to draw us more into the scene.
今夜はこれくらいにしよう。
Let's call it a day. George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly.
君に左手につけてほしいと命令することもできるかもしれない。
I could probably order you to wear it on your left hand.
命令されれば、それに従えるという臆病な甘えがあるかもしれない。
You might even be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of an order.
最後のここだけは、君の
That's fair. But I want at least this
最後の意
last
志でして
step.
もらいたいんだ。
This one to be done by your own will,
わ
Sayo.
かるね。
Understand? Yes.
はい。
だから、
Alright.
それが命令。
That's my order.
今夜よく考えて、明日、その返事を見せてほしい。
Think about it well tonight and show me your answer tomorrow. Well, at least he's not being too subtle that no one understands what's going on. Shannon nodded back. The day was the culmination of their many days spent together. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon.
そろそろゲストハウスに戻ろうか。
You mean Sayo. We should be getting back to the guest house
これ以上
soon.
遅いと、みんなを心配させちゃうよ。
If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us.
すみません。
Alright.
私、その、お屋敷に用を思い出しまして。
I just remembered something I had to do in the mansion, so... Wait, isn't she banned from the mansion? She's actually banned from the mansion for the rest of the night, because they had, like, some serious random-ass restrictions and some sketchy stuff we were thinking was going to go on. Please don't die, Shannon.
その、
But then again, the rules of horror say if you do anything with a significant other, you're probably going to get murdered, so... Shannon's in danger.
お
So,
屋敷へ行かねばなりません。
I gotta go back to the mansion.
こんな時間に
At a time like this? It's like 11 at night?
本
Is
当か
that
な
so? George stared into Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through the lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understand she might be so embarrassed she'd want to be alone. Though, because George realized the meaning behind the lie, he accepted it. Ah, it's still raining. It was supposed to be raining all day, too, so... And it just started, so, like, I wasn't expecting it to be gone. Alright. 10? Oh, there we go. Time change. Yeah, it was 10, and we're advancing to 11? Considering how precise they are with the timing of things. They're really keen on us understanding the order of events and seeing everything from everyone's perspective. Alright, the piano's kicking in pretty hard here, damn. Well, Shannon entered the entrance hall to the mansion with a tottering gait. She seems suddenly very happy, and the music is very triumphant. A mixture of exaltation and uncertainty gave her a feeling that she couldn't easily describe. It swelled up in her chest until she felt like it was about to burst. After stopping for a second in front of the servant room to take a deep breath and calm her heart, she opened the door. Inside, Goda, who'd been ordered to take midnight shift at the mansion, was absorbed in a worn-out crossword puzzle magazine. He He looked up for an instant to see if one of the family had come in, but when he realized he was a fellow servant, he returned to his puzzles as if nothing had happened.
源氏様より郷田さんのお手伝いにつくように言われてまいりました。
Excuse me? Interesting. Genji told me to come help you.
ああ、そうですか。それは助かります。
That's so. It's a relief.
そろそろ戸締まりの見回りに行きたかったのですが、ここを開けてもいいものか困っていたのです。
That's so. That's a relief. I was about to go check if the mansion was fully locked up, but I felt uneasy about leaving this room
何
unmanned.
しろ、旦那様方の会合はまだだいぶ続きそうですからね。
After all, Kraus and the others' meeting looks like it'll be continuing for quite some
いつ
time.
何時お茶のご用命があるかもわかりませんし。
They may request tea at any moment.
そうですよね。
It's true.
ではどうしましょうか。
What shall we do?
私
Shall I
は留
watch
守番を。
ではシャノンさん、申し訳ありませんが、お屋敷内の見回りをお願いします。
In that case, forgive me, Shannon. I'll ask you patrol the mansion.
私はここで親族の皆さんのご用命の待機をしており
I'll
ますの
stay
で。
here awaiting the family's orders. Okay.
はい。
Yes, Shannon was slightly disgusted. Even though she came here to help as a favor, she was casually being forced to do the job of the person actually on duty. Yeah, that is kind of slimy. You're like, hey, do you need any help? And he's like, perfect timing. I need someone to lock all the doors and patrol the mansion. And you're like, wait, isn't that your job to do at night? And he's like, yeah, I need someone to do my job for me. But whatever. Gilda's done that at least once already to Shannon, so we're not entirely surprised that he's doing this. Furthermore, after one-sidedly forcing that task on her, he returned to his magazine once again and became immersed in his crossword puzzle. See, like, what you'd typically expect if you volunteer to help out here is you're like, well, I gotta go do some stuff. You can chill out here, read this magazine. That's probably what you're, like, expecting someone to do, right? Like, oh, you want to help? Okay, well, here, you stay here. See if there's any extra work that comes up. I'm going to go do my actual job. And when I get back, then we can both relax. Or to split it up, the work up 50-50, but I guess he's doing that. And to be fair to him, he's probably not had the best of days. Goda's the professional cook. And honestly, people were pretty down about his big triumphant meal of the year. Not his fault. It was things completely outside of control. I mean, the meal was fine, but like the atmosphere around the meal was really bad, and he was trying to unfuck it. But it was like really heavy financial, inheritance-related stuff. And then they had that fucking letter at the end. Like everyone's mood is like really low, which probably impacted how much they like the meal and like his expected you know, when you're showing off like your meal of the year, like your best meal, you're trying to like, your food's an art, and like having people like kind of react in a middling way or not really care is kind of like a little bit unpleasant. So I can see he's like, I could tell he'd be like a little bit upset, maybe not enough upset to like cry or like have a tantrum, but he's kind of like, fuck, that was not a good day. Like no one liked the food. There was barely any comments on how good it was. They kind of just like ate it like it was fucking hot dogs, and we're done with it. It's like I could have made something. I could have made anything, and they probably would have had the same reaction, right? You can kind of feel that kind of burns. All right, Shannon bowed her head as a token of sign of respect for her elder and left the room to patrol the mansion. Thanks to her being a bit ticked off, she managed to suppress that floaty feeling she'd been having until just now. Anyway, she couldn't let Genji or Kanon see her looking like this. She wanted a little time to herself until her heart calmed down, so maybe going on patrol wouldn't be so bad. Fair enough. She began to hear the tumultuous voices of the family discussion coming from the dining hall. Someone was speaking at great length, only to be interrupted by someone else. This second person also began to speak in a very long, drawn-out fashion until yet another person interrupted. And it repeated, on and on. It was as though their displeasure was seeping out through their voices. She'd been told to go to the guest house, so it would be bad if Kraus discovered her. And thinking this, she dashed past the dining hall. Then she went along a prearranged route through the dark mansion, checking all the locks. Making sure they're secure. All right. She walked down the hall, checking each window. There were no humans on Rokkenjima other than those connected to the family, so locking up didn't really serve too much of a purpose. But we are kind of suspecting Beatrice is around, although she might be a witch, so the locks may not do anything. No one had been in the habit of locking up at the Shiromia head family, at least not until Natsuhi had scolded them for being careless. Oh, Natsuhi is the one enforcing. I mean, it is a deserted island. Like, if someone's on the island, they're probably going to break in anyway. Yeah, no one has any reason to be on this island, so if they're going into your house, they're probably breaking in anyway, right? So probably it doesn't matter. It probably wouldn't matter too much if you had the locks. They just buy you 5 minutes of time. I can kind of see not locking if you're actually on your own private island. That's one nice upside of that. Then again, I suspect there's probably like secret passages or something in this mansion. Okay, it's a mansion in a horror movie. There's secret passages, right? Like, is anyone to tell me they don't exist? There's probably a secret passage and a way for Beatrice to get in through physical means without using magic. I'm just gonna leave that there. You know, it's how every fucking mansion in every fucking horror movie works. There's always some secret passage, even if it's just the obvious elevator to the basement, and the basement has some creepy shit hidden in it. There's always something you weren't expecting there's always something you weren't expecting in the mansion, in a hidden room or something. We already saw that there is a locked room with some gold that nobody knows about in it. Who knows what else there is in the mansion that's hidden away. The metal fixtures on the windows were ice cold, and as she checked them one by one, the glow in her heart seemed to cool down. Butterflies. Bioluminescent butterflies. At that time, she thought she saw something twinkling across the hall. Twinkling? How could anything be twinkling through the darkness of the hall? She figured she must have been imagining it, but she still held her breath. Grasping a curtain, she fearfully gazed down the hall. However, other than the occasional crack of thunder brightening the hallway, she was unable to glimpse any flicker again. It must have been her imagination after all. Probably not. Maybe her heart was so agitated that she'd seen something that didn't even exist. She went back to checking the windows. However, a certain unnerving memory was resurrected in the back of her mind. It was the ghost story, passed down amongst servants who served the Ishiromiya head family. The mansion had 2 different masters, one of the day and one of the night. Beatrice, Master of the Night, would sometimes fly around the mansion in the form of sparkling butterflies. That was the story. Yeah, you can hear those strings, right? The spooky song, the tension building. Whenever they play like really high notes and these specific types of strings, they're trying to build tension, set the atmosphere, make you a little bit uncomfortable and anxious. Come to think of it, didn't Canon-kun once say he'd seen it with his own eyes? Though he got sulky when I said he must have imagined it and refused to believe him. Could it be possibly true? The roar of the thunder gave no answer. I mean, we did just see butterflies on the screen. That said, it was for us it was a background that was set in place for a couple seconds. For her, it might have just been a flicker for a moment. An after image. Almost. And it's pouring outside. Right, is this a scene change to the guest house? I'm not actually tapping to move anything. It's just changing through these images by itself. Okay. Yeah, Beatrice's picture. Wouldn't it be weird if like the figure in the picture disappeared or something? That'd be cool. We're standing here staring at it. Oh, it zoomed in. Okay. I was thinking I might need to tap something to move forward, but we're still going. Slowly and slowly we're going forward. I got a good eyeful of this Beatrice. I mean, we've gotten a good eyeful in the past, but they're clearly trying to tell us something by zooming in on Beatrice's face. You know, like when they do that in Scooby-Doo, show you that there's something going on there. I missed what was actually happening, but it looks like they're just trying to demonstrate the passage of time. The argument goes on. Shannon returns. I think they're trying to... Oh, these two show up? Looking for Shannon, maybe? Or are they chilling out in the guest room? Okay, we're still going. It's a nice slideshow. Back to the picture. Is the picture going to change? No? Alright then. I still haven't touched anything. My hands are in my lap. And we go to bed. Nothing happens. 6 a.m. So presumably this is, nothing interesting happened, so they just talked, went to bed. 6 a.m. Rolls around. Who would be awake at 6? Servants? Servants are probably awake at 6. The second day, October 5th, 1986. Oh, it's the 1980s. I thought it was the 90s. My bad. Alright, well, we have our setting. Genji tightened his bow tie and looked outside through a crack in the curtains. Maybe the rain had died down a tiny bit since the previous night, but the thick rain clouds didn't seem like they'd be letting any trace of the morning sun get by. The morning was dim and far from refreshing. Seems it will last all day after all. Well, they did say they probably wouldn't make it to school. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Genji-sama. Kanon finished checking his appearance and exited the washroom. On their normal schedule, it was rare for anyone to have to suffer going straight from a midnight shift to an early morning shift. They were on a special schedule for the 2 days of the family conference. However, unless the typhoon passed today, their relative stay on this island would last until tomorrow. Kanon thought it best to be prepared for this special schedule to last an extra day. They should have one of them sleeping, right? The two of them left the guest house, opening their umbrellas. The rose garden had been devastated by the wind and rain on the previous night. Rip Rose Garden. Even though they spent several days making it beautiful to welcome the guests, one stormy night was enough to ruin it. Kanon sighed. Yeah, that sucks. You gotta redo that, right? The two headed for the mansion. They were supposed to meet up with Goda and prepare breakfast. Goda was such a perfectionist he probably had already woken up and was probably already preparing a breakfast as exquisite and elegant as glasswork. They reached the overhang by the entrance to the mansion and folded up their umbrellas. Yeah, this overhang's real handy in the middle of a storm. Much nicer than standing out in the open, folding up your umbrella and going in. Genji took a bundle of several keys from his pocket and unlocked the front door. The Ashiromiya family mansion was the only thing on Rokkenjima, so in the past they hadn't been in the habit of locking up. However, Natsuhi had ordered the mansion be locked up from midnight to early morning. Ever since then, unlocking the door in the morning had become part of the servants' morning shift, and seems like a real pain considering nobody else lives on the island. The task had been given to Genji and Kanon so Goda could start preparing breakfast as soon as he woke up. Silence had fallen in the mansion, giving it the impression the mansion itself was fast asleep. And look at the pale coloration. He probably applied a filter to most of this, but the pale coloring definitely gives this a completely different tone than the like relatively warm, comfortable, welcoming appearance it had last night. Well then, let's begin the morning chores. It's very desaturated. Like you can see the red. You can see the curtains are like supposed to be red or pink or something like that, but they're faded. The wood is like a dark brown, might possibly even like closer to a gray. It just gives this whole place. The walls seem less of like a white or off-white and more like almost green-gray. It definitely makes this whole place look more drab, look rather drab. Alright. The two of them split up and began opening the curtains throughout the mansion. If the curtains stayed closed, the mansion would remain enveloped in faint darkness as though it was still trapped in the previous night. There we go! Lovely. Following a well-rehearsed procedure, Kanon went around the mansion, opening curtains for one window after another without having to retrace his steps once. Even with this horrible weather, drawing the curtains made it feel just a little bit like morning. Or at least the guy turned off the desaturation. Or turned up the saturation so it looked a little better. While doing that, he passed in front of the kitchen. Even though he hadn't smelled anything, his stomach started aching for some of Goda's prized cooking.
おはようございます。
Good morning. He tried to reach Goda, who should have been getting breakfast ready, but Goda was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen was darkly lit, and not only were the curtains not open, the fan wasn't even running. It was still cold without a trace of a fire being lit, so of course there were no signs of breakfast being made either. It would have been inexcusable. Perhaps Goda overslept. Even servants are only human. They sometimes sleep in and show up late. In the rare case that such a thing happens, it's part of a servant's code to hide the unsightly scene before anyone notices, smoothly cover it up, and make sure the family never realizes anything has gone wrong. Cannon took the receiver of the phone that had been fitted to the wall and dialed the number for the extension line in the servant's sleeping room. He couldn't hear that characteristic sound of a dial tone. There might be out of power? Cannon tried picking up the receiver, but even so he couldn't hear the usual dial tone. He tried dialing again, but it had no apparent effect. If you don't have a dial tone, you don't have a connection anyway. Although in theory you could still dial locally if it's just an intercom. If it swaps to an intercom instead of going to the network, it would work, right? If it goes to the intercom instead of the switchboard on the phone network, right? R.I.P. Gouda. You guys think Gouda's dead already? There's a chance he bit it. There's a chance everyone in the mansion is dead. But there's also a chance he missed his alarm because his alarm is plugged in. There might not be power. Let's cope hard, right? He's not dead, right? Could the lighting last night have damaged the machine, breaking the extension line? I'm thinking they might be severed from the outside. Grilled cheese, that would be nice. Honestly, if I was served a nice grilled cheese sandwich, I wouldn't complain. Grilled cheese sandwich for breakfast in the morning? Sign me up. Give me some barbecue sauce. Be nice. The equipment in this mansion was all worn out. Cannon fully understood that even the smallest thing could have caused it to break down. He gave up trying to wake Goda with the phone and dashed over to the servant's sleeping room. Alright. In your head, a comic kill is a wholesome anime. Alright. Well, in your head... Barbecue sauce and grilled cheese is better than ketchup. Yeah. Yep, better than ketchup. At least the main character. Alright, let's see. Do we see a bloodbath? What do we see? How long has it been since I stopped sleeping and started lazily staring up at the ceiling? The vague sense of awakening was part of Natsuhi's usual morning experience. She always slept lightly and she couldn't sleep at all without medicine. To Natsuhi, sleep was definitely not a happy thing. When she looked outside, she saw it was still pouring. If she hadn't sensed a tiny amount of light, she might have mistakenly thought it was still the previous night. She herself was one of the hosts, so she mustn't wake up later than her guests. Urging herself on, she raised herself up, which her body still hadn't recovered completely from yesterday's weariness. That's not a bad room. We haven't seen her room before. No one would torment her as long as she remained inside this room. Oh, she must sleep separate from Kraus, right? Maybe she sleeps separate from Kraus? It looks like there's one pillow on the bed. And it's hard to tell. It might be a single or a double. It looks more like a single, though. Looks like a relatively small double. Or twin, right? That the pillow might be extra wide? Who knows? Her headache wouldn't get any worse here. This room was the only place she could find peace, so when she left it, it meant returning to the world where her husband's siblings kept trying to stab each other in the back. In that case, wouldn't it be better to just stay locked up in this room forever? The ridiculous notion brought a bitter smile to Natsuhi's face. He was starting to sound like Kinzo. She often complained about Kinzo staying locked up in his own room and refusing to attend to everyone else. The truth was, she longed to do the same. She gave her head a small shake, her fantasy replaced by the reawakening of her usual headache. When she reached for the doorknob trying to leave the room, her hand touched the scorpion charm she hung from it before going to sleep the previous night.
BB Channel!
I saw a Kiyohime in art. Someone summoned me.
Oh, thanks for the resub. Thanks for the resub, my dude. Green? How have you been? You saw Kiyohime in art. Someone summoned you. Really? Well, much like servants have catalyst for their summoning, we know a catalyst for summoning Green. Kiyohime art. Wait, was there Kiyohime? There was Kiyohime art, right? There was some cute Kiyohime art somewhere? There is, yes. Oh my goodness, that was that from yesterday. Oh my goodness, she looked so cute in that. You're absolutely right, my dude. You've been summoned. What's good? What's good? We're enjoying a nice visual novel, Umineko, which apparently is horror, but nothing bad's happened. We've just had a couple unnerving things happen. Like, presumably someone was given a letter by the witch of the island, but they live on an isolated island. All the adults in this family are assholes. They're all greedy assholes, all trying to fight over their father's inheritance before he's even dead. You know, that kind of person. By the way, this is their grandfather's house. They're literally in his house, screaming at each other over the inheritance. Wonderful people. And Grandpa's just like, fuck all of you, I'm not interacting with you, I'm gonna try and sort it out by having a treasure hunt. Except nobody's interested in the fucking treasure hunt, they're just screaming about the inheritance instead of doing the treasure hunt he's trying to pitch them on. And the treasure hunt is, of course, for all the inheritance. Adults are assholes generally, yeah. I mean, they were screaming about it before he did the treasure hunt, now they're still screaming about it. It was Maria's charm, which Natsuhi had received from Jessica. Didn't Jessica say something about it having the power to repel magic, telling her to hang it from her doorknob? Maybe it was thanks to the charm, at least this room had been protected from the malice of her husband's siblings. As she thought this, her mood got a little bit more cheerful. I wonder if I have Jessica to thank for the little bit of peaceful sleep I managed to receive. And then Natsuhi remembered. That's right, last night I promised Jessica I'd give her a charm of my own in exchange for this, didn't I? She opened a drawer on her dresser and took out an antique accessory case that she treasured when she was a child. Inside there were many small objects Natsuhi thought were valuable at the time. From amidst those, she pulled out a red pouch. Inside was a small round mirror about 10 centimeters across. It looked quite old, but the design on the back of the mirror was ornate, and it felt like something with historical value. At the very least, it seemed more authentic than the other charm, which looked like a plastic scorpion keychain. She heard this was a spiritual mirror for warding off evil spirits, and she'd been given it specially by her grandmother when her grandfather's mementos had been distributed. It had been believed since long ago that a strange power resided in the mirror. Perhaps people thought it could reflect calamity and malice in the same way it reflected light. Unlikely, but that's cool. You think you've watched an anime with this? I have not seen such an anime. It might exist. But I'm enjoying the novel as is right now. If it was good, well, if it's good, that's great news. Natsuhi returned the mirror to its pouch. It would probably be a fitting object to hand over to Jessica. As she was placing it in her pocket, the sound of someone knocking on the door suddenly echoed through the room.
Hi.
Yes? Good morning, ma'am. It's Genji. My apologies for waking you so early. I'm coming now. What is it? No servant had ever come to her this early in the morning, nor had they come to wake her in person. Perhaps something bad happened. Maybe some fatal oversight had been made while preparing breakfast, something that would shame the household in front of their guests. Natsuhi took a deep breath in anticipation for whatever trouble she was about to hear of. When she opened the door, Genji once again gave... That is a creaky door! Damn! When she opened the door, Genji once again gave a morning greeting while bowing deeply. Can you imagine your door creaking that much? Like, goddamn. I know there's like 5 servants in this place. Why on earth is nobody taking some WD-40 and fixing those hinges? It's like 10 seconds and it'll solve it for like the next 10 years. Just psh, 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 done. That's all you have to do. Must be really hard to get WD-40 on this island. Natsuhi tentatively responded. Good morning. Already dressed, alright? It's not that simple. Good morning. Did something happen? My apologies. It would appear the telephones have broken down due to the lightning last night. The extension telephone isn't working. Forgive my coming to see you directly.
内線電話が普通？
The extension telephone? Bear in mind, this is not the 21st century. This is 1986. So they weren't using the internet for phones. The intercom should function on your phone lines.
それは面倒になりましたね。
That's troublesome.
修理は可能ですか？
Will it be possible to fix it?
残念ながら故障箇所がわかりません。
I'm afraid we don't know the location of the damage. Yeah, they're using landlines, and they're on an island too. So the damage could be anywhere along the seabed. 1987. Yeah. Yeah, it's 1986. It's pretty old. Yeah. Oh god, landlines. Yeah, it's so old-fashioned. I thought intercoms worked without it, but maybe they don't in the 80s. Without an external connection, maybe they don't in the 80s because they bounce to like your phone service provider and then back.
後で業者を呼んで修理させたいと思います。
Later on, I'd like to call in an expert and have him repair it.
ということは、この台風が過ぎるまでは修理不能ということですか？
Does that mean we're unable to have it repaired until after the typhoon passes? This is the 80s. Yeah. There's a non-zero chance they're rotary phones
客人
too.
たちの滞在中はずっと普通ということですね。
It will remain broken down for the duration of our guest stay.
客人たちのお世話に支障は？
Will that hamper our efforts to care for our guests?
出ないよう最善を尽くします。
Just have to fix this. Continue.
Oh, after the sub, thanks for the bits, my dude Green. You are being very generous tonight. Looking to claim your bits throne. I see. Oh, I appreciate those bits. And I'm glad to continue providing you guys tons of entertainment. As much as I can give you. Let's get back to this. Green is a generous god. Truly a generous man. Alright, Genji's going to do all he can to assure there's no problems. Very well.
粗相のないようよろしく頼みます。
I'm counting on you to make sure we have no blunders. Honestly, probably wouldn't use the intercom that much. It'd only be useful like once in a blue moon to summon the servants if they're like doing another task or something. Natsuhi let out a small sigh of relief. She'd been prepared for the worst, but damage to the telephones wasn't exactly the kind of trouble she was worried about.
Match.
Someone's a little bit mad. Someone's a little bit mad. They're like, wait a minute. I want it to be number one. Yeah, that number two not sticking comfy with you? Well, this will be an interesting night. I mean, it's morning for our characters, but apparently it's evening for us. Gonna be interesting either way. Then again, even this would probably be enough to spark sarcasm from Ava. Yeah, she is pretty sarcastic, and she'd be irritated at even the smallest issue. Natsuhi gave her head a light shake.
朝食の準備は順調ですか？
Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well?
それがゴーダの姿が見えません。
As to that, we haven't been able to find Goda.
朝食の支度もまだ行われておらず。
The arrangements for breakfast have yet to be carried out.
なんですって？
What did you say? Natsuhi was indignant. To her, this was a much bigger problem than the phones not working. And despite that, this piece of information was the part that had been postponed? Mr. True. Oh no, people are throwing money at me today. Yeah, life is hard. Life is hard. Yeah. First world problems. What do I do with all these bits? Maybe I can make bits into fragments, into shards.
I never lose.
Into chunks. I never lose. All right. Thanks, Green. Green's fighting for number one, and it looks like he's got it for now. Thank you for the bits, my dude. I appreciate it all. I appreciate those who give me bits and those who do not. But you get an extra thank you for giving me bits. Alright, this is the part of this one, probably because Genji's already implemented a solution for it, so it's not as relevant, whereas this one you need to be informed about, because it's going to be costing you something, and nothing's been done about it. Oh no, I guess it'll go into sync with yeah. Why did everything go so well most of the time and then come to something like this when the relatives are visiting? Natsuhi, I know exactly how you feel. This is my opinion. It's like, I can cook everything flawlessly, and then my parents come over and I'm like, well, I guess it's slightly overcooked. Oops. Like, I somehow managed to overcook rice one of the times they came over, and I was like, the fuck have I managed this? Like, I cooked rice like 500 times without you guys, and the first time I cook rice for you, I fuck it up. Like, god damn. How'd I manage that shit? Anyway, so yeah, I understand how Natsuhi is feeling here. She put her hand to her forehead and shook her head.
大方朝寝坊でもしているのでしょう。
Well, I suppose he slept
と
in.
にかく誰でもいいから急いで朝食の準備を。
I suppose he slept in. At any rate, just see to it that someone hurries up and prepares breakfast. I don't care who. What? Natsuhi exited into the hall and turned around for a second to close the door to her room. The creepy thing she saw there silenced her completely. It was an unpleasant sight, as though someone dipped their fingers in a reddish-black liquid and scratched at the door around the knob. What are we doing? Is anyone dead yet? Nobody's dead yet, or though, well, I say nobody is dead, and what I mean by nobody is dead, it means we haven't seen a body, but it's past the first night. And we're in the first arc. So, an unpleasant sight as though someone dipped their fingers in reddish-black liquid and scratched at the door around the doorknob. Does this mean there is a body? Does this mean there's going to be a body or just some creepy shit? Okay. It was probably some sort of awful prank arranged by some person that wanted to make it look like as though they tried to force the door with bloody hands.
これは
What sort of prank is
何のい
this?
たずらですか。悪趣味な。
Awful.
私も今ここにお伺いして初めて気づき
I
ました
also noticed it as I came to call you. We haven't seen... Okay, so... We have concerns. We haven't seen Shannon. We haven't seen Goda. The only person we know is alive is Natsuhi in this mansion. Presumably Genji and... Or we've seen Kanon, because Kanon was in the other place. So I'm going to assume... Alright, alright. No message, just your message. The money is the message. I see how it is. Thank you. Thank you once again. Again, the money is the message. Apparently that's going. Thank you once again, Green. And of course, BB. They're competing for my affection. I mean, I'm telling you guys, you're getting my affection either way. You're fighting for yourselves, as it means, as whoever is on top of the bits throne does not actually impact how well I treat them. So, we know, I'm guessing that the people in the guest house are probably okay. That's my guess. Guest house people, probably okay. People in this house, there might be a couple bodies, or a prank going on. That's what I'm thinking. Is something happened, possibly to Goda and Shannon? Could they be the first deaths?
後ほど清掃いたします
I will clean it later.
大方
Perhaps.
趣味の悪い客人の冗談でしょう。
This is a vulgar joke by one of the
不
guests.
愉快です。実に不愉快です。
Disgusting. Truly disgusting. Who in the world would pull such a childish and disgusting prank? Natsuhi had a pretty good idea, but of course there was no proof. Even if she pushed the issue, it would just seem as though she was making a fuss about nothing. In fact, it would surely be better to act as though she hadn't even realized such a prank had been played on her. That would be a pretty adult move, yeah. Natsuhi gave the order to have it cleaned and headed off to the parlor with a squeak of her heels. When Natsuhi and Genji arrived in the parlor, Eva and Hideyoshi were already there. Okay. They're not dead.
おはようございます、皆さん。
Good morning, everyone.
おはよう、夏日さん。
Good morning,
朝
Natsuhi-san.
食も合田さんが作るっちゅう話やないか。
I heard Goda would be making us breakfast, too.
朝から胃袋が大喜びで騒ぎっぱなしなんや。
My stomach's been getting all excited since I woke up. You like
本
Genji?
家
Oh,
の
he's the
楽し
Genji
み
man.
は食事くらいがせいぜいですものね。
It seems food's all you can look forward to at the head family household. Yeah, true. Everything else has been relatively unpleasant, mostly because they're all so hostile to each other.
エヴァさんも朝からご機嫌がよろしいようで
I'm
何よ
pleased
り
to
で
see
す。
you're in high spirits so early in the morning, Eva-san. With a weary expression, Natsuhi returned Ava's gaze, which was fiercely competitive despite the early hour. Then Cannon jogged in. After bowing in an apology to the relatives for running inside the mansion, he noticed Genji and told him something in a small voice.
カノン、
Kanon,
ゴーダはまだ見つからないのですか？
have you still not found Goda?
申し訳ございません、奥様。
You like the author of Genji's story's author? Yes, yes. My
お屋敷
apologies,
内の
madam.
ゲストハウスも回ったのですが、
I went all over the inside of the mansion and the guest house. I still haven't found him. Where the heck did Goda go? You went all over the inside, so you checked every room you can get into? You can't think of a single character in this game that you dislike as a character? So many of them are awful people. Yes. Half of them are awful people. That you're kind of like, I kind of wish someone would just slap some sense into this person. They aren't acting crazy though. They're not acting crazy, they're just like really greedy people. They're like really greedy assholes, which is very different than being like someone who's like, oh my god, this guy's a fucking idiot.
Ether 51 love Ether 51 love Ether 51
Here we
love
go
Ether
again.
51 love Ether 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 51
I think it's gonna cut up at some point.
51 love Ether 51 love Ether 51 love Ether.
It cut out more. I'm looking at the message and it's like all Ether 51 loves, and then there's all loves, and then there's one Danny lost here. Like, what is this Danny doing here? What is this Danny Space Show doing here? She seems lost, very out of place. Oh, that's good. It's BB's real voice, I guess so. Thank you once again, BB, for the bits. The AI is talking. Run. They've achieved sapience. There's nowhere left to escape to.
BB I swear to the foreign god. Sailor 393 gun.
You're gonna get capped by a sailor maid. BB, he swears to the foreign god. Wait, is Green secretly an agent of the foreign god? Oh, that might explain the rivalry. I might explain the rivalry. You're on opposite sides in a conflict. Thanks once again, my friend, for the bits. Alright, you still haven't found him anywhere in the house. Well, he's fucking disappeared then, right?
一体どこへ行ったという
Where
の
in
で
the
す。
world has he gone?
とりあえず今はゴーダより朝食の準備が先決です。
In any rate, breakfast is a higher priority than finding Goda
至
right
急
now.
対応しなさい。
See to it immediately.
はい。
Yes. Cannon glanced at Genji. It seemed he had something else to report, but was uncertain whether or not the words should come from him. Genji nodded and decided to give the report himself.
奥様、
Ma'am,
ゴーダだけではありません。
it's not only
旦
Goda.
那様の姿もありません。
Your husband is also nowhere to be found.
主人が？
My husband?
はい。
Yes.
奥様より先に旦那様に朝食の準備がないことをご報告しようと思い、寝室をお伺いしたのですが、
Looks like someone came in at the right time. Even before visiting you, I went to his room to tell him the breakfast wasn't being prepared, but I did not find him there. Well, that's not good.
それから旦那様だけではありません。
Is there perhaps 6 people missing? Furthermore, he's not the only one missing. Here we
ルド
go.
ルフ様ご夫妻とローザ様のお姿もありません。
Rudolph-sama, his wife, and Rosa-sama are nowhere to be found.
ゲストハウスにも
Not in the guest house?
屋敷にもですか？
No, the mansion?
はい。
Yes.
ゲストハウスの部屋にも
They were
お
not
られません。
in their rooms in the guest house either. Besides, they locked the doors. So they would have known, because they probably didn't have keys. Right? They don't have keys? They don't have keys, so one of the doors would have been noticeably unlocked, so they would have had to actually unlock the door. So I think, Cannon and Genji would have noticed. Was it Cannon and Genji who went to check the guest room? Yeah. They came in and unlocked the mansion. They would have noticed that the door was unlocked because presumably the door unlocks from the inside, you know, real easy. But if you don't have a key, you can't unlock it. If you can't lock it again. So they would have noticed if someone went to the guest house. Plus, they were also staying in the servants' room, and typically servants' rooms are really close to the front. When she heard that Goda alone was missing, she assumed he slept in or was loafing around somewhere. However, now that she'd learned that several of the relatives were also nowhere to be seen, she began to take a slightly more optimistic view. Yeah, cope harder. Maybe they're outside doing something. Could last night's family conference have continued all night up until the present moment? If so, they might have wanted to cool their heads after being shut in a stuffy room, going out for walks on their own through the rain. The part about cooling their heads sounds like something Kroos would say. Goda had probably been summoned to accompany them and aid them in some way. Alright, she's coping hard, but I think it's not completely unreasonable to say they're out for a walk or something, even if it's in the middle of a rainstorm. Like, most people aren't just like, oh yeah, we're in a horror movie, they're dead. Like, most people are like, it's real life. They're probably off doing something because people don't disappear randomly on an island. Goda was not a man who lost track of time. He had to understand preparations for breakfast would be hindered if he didn't return. However, maybe the family conference continued until this very moment. With an atmosphere that would make it hard for anyone to slip out. Yes, that theory would be convincing for Natsuhi. She remembered the illusion she felt that morning, as though the previous night had never ended. When she learned that the feeling wasn't just an illusion, she once again took a deep, weary breath. After that, the banquet of filthy vultures circling Kinzo's property was still going on.
大方、庭園のどこか、あるいは海岸の方で相も変わらず遺産の話を繰り返しているのでしょう。
Perhaps they are still discussing the inheritance somewhere in the garden or maybe the beach.
とにかく、ゴーダを呼び戻さなくては、いつまでも朝食の準備が整いません。
At any rate, if we don't call Goda back, we'll never be able to begin preparations for breakfast.
ってことはなんや
What are you
兄
saying?
さんたちの話し合いはまだ続いとるんか
Are Nissan and the rest still continuing the discussion? He planned to say it in a small voice, but Hideyoshi overheard Natsuhi and managed to grasp the situation.
兄さんもルドルフもタフね。
Nissan and Rudolph sure are tough.
ローザの場合は若さかしら？
Maybe it's just youth in Rose's case? How many people missing is this? Nissan, Rudolph, his wife, Akiri, and Rosa, that's 4. Where's Shannon? Shannon is 5, Goda is 6. That's the 6 disappearances? If we're trying to add up to 6 for whatever the key says, and the sacrifices for the key or whatever? Alright.
私たち、夕べの24時過ぎにはもう眠くてベッドに戻らせてもらったんだけど。
Just a bit after midnight, the two of us were so tired we headed to bed?
確かにあの時点でも、まだ兄さんたちは熱論を交わしてたわ。
I do remember Nissan and the rest were having a heated discussion at that point.
男って、熱くなると嫌ね。
Men certainly are unpleasant when they get all fired up. Natsuhi snorted, her face still blank.
カノン、表を探してらっしゃい。
Cannon, search outside.
ゴーダを見つけたら、すぐに戻って朝食の準備を
If you
する
find
よう伝え
Goda,
なさい。
tell him to return and begin preparing breakfast.
かしこまりました。
Cannon searching outside. Is Genji going to prepare breakfast in the meantime? I mean, you should probably get preparing it, even if it's not the 10 out of 10 breakfast, right? You should have something for breakfast.
夏日姉さん、表とは限らないわよ。
Natsuhi, we don't know for sure they're
お
outside too.
父様の書斎ってことはないかしら？
Couldn't they also be inside Father's study?
なるほど考えられん話やないで
That is possible.
どういう話の流れかはわからんが
I don't know what path their
お
conversation
父
took.
さんの主催に場所を移してお父さんにも混じってもらって議論を続けてるっちゅう可能性は十分あるやろ
So one thing I don't know is whether or not the servants have access to, like, say, the room with the gold on the pedestal. So, did Cannon check that room or did he not? It might be locked, and that might be like where a body is, or were they having a discussion or something in one of those rooms? Like, we don't know enough about the layout of the mansion to know if there could be any hidden rooms, or if there are any rooms they couldn't check. There's certainly a chance they moved to Father's study and let him in on the discussion.
そのような汚らわしい話題を好んで、お父様が書斎へ招き入れることなど。
I'm with Natsuhi, though. I can't imagine father would willingly let them bring such a detestable topic into his study.
あらそう
You think so?
じゃあ仕方ないわね
Oh, then there's nothing we can do.
源氏さんとカノン君は申し訳ないけど外を探してきてちょうだい
Sorry, Genji and Canon. Could you search
確
outside?
かに兄さんなら頭を冷やすために外を散歩しようなんて言い出しても不思議はないわ
It wouldn't be strange for Nissan to suggest they go outside for a walk to cool their
た
heads.
とえこんな天気でもね
Even in this weather.
私はお父様の書斎に行ってくるわ
I'll go to father's
ひょっ
study.
とするとそこにいるかもしれないしね
Who knows? They might actually be in there after all.
客人であるエヴァさんにそこまでのご足労はおかけできません
Eva-san, I couldn't ask a guest like you to exert yourself. So.
私が行ってきます
I will go.
朝のご挨拶も兼ねて
I'll also wish him a good morning while I'm at it.
あらじゃあお願いするわね
Ah, then I'll leave it in your hands.
でも朝の挨拶を交わしてくれるかは疑わしいわね
Oh, I somehow doubt he'll return your greeting.
夏日姉さんってお父様とは仲よろしかったかしら
Natsuhine-san, have you always been on such good terms with father?
仲が良いかは分かりかねますが
I don't know whether you could call it that.
後ろ
Probably
宮
not.
家の跡継ぎの妻を許されるだけの信頼を得ていると確信しています
I'm sure I've gained his trust as wife of the successor of the Ishiromiya family.
ならきっと返事くらいはしてくれるわね
I'm sure he'll at least answer you, right? I mean, he doesn't answer to fucking anybody. This guy's an asshole, so him not answering her, not a surprise. Him answering her would actually be
お
a
父
surprise,
様と
or
は
anyone
朝
really.
食くらいご一緒したいの
I'd like to at least have breakfast with father. Eva taking chance to undermine Natsuhi, giving the same orders Natsuhi already gave. She already gave the
ぜ
orders.
ひ降りてきてくださるよ説得してくれないかしら
Do you think you could convince him to come down and join us?
私たちはすっかり嫌われちゃってるみたいだけど
She's
そこま
just
で
being
信頼
super
を得
venomous
ている
here.
夏日姉さんの言うことなら聞いてくれそうですもの
It seems as though he thoroughly despises the rest of us, but I'm sure he'll listen to you if he trusts you that much.
そこまで単価を切ってお父様を説得できず
After
一人で
speaking.
降りて
This
き
is
ちゃった
stupid.
りしたら
This is a stupid statement, Ava. Kraus couldn't get him to come down because he was ill. Why do you think Natsuhi would be able to do this? After speaking so boldly, if you're unable to convince father and come down
信
alone,
頼を得ているなんて二度と言えないかもね
literally no one's been able to get him out. That's a stupid statement, Ava. But of course, she's just being venomous. Oh well. Yeah, if you're unable to convince father to come down alone, I doubt you'll ever be able to claim that you've earned his trust again. I mean, the servants he actually trusts to go into the room can't bring him down. Like Genji can't, Canon can't. And neither can his doctor, people he actually lets into the room, so why on earth would Natsuhi succeed?
自信はありませんが努力はします
I'm not confident, but I will try. Natsuhi responded, looking discouraged. However, knowing Kinzo's temperament, she had absolutely no confidence in her ability to bring him out. Anyone told you Ava has Takano's VA? No, I didn't know about that specific relation to them. That kind of makes sense, but that kind of makes sense now that I think about it. But I was not aware that Takano from Higurashi shares a VA with Ava. Makes sense. They have a similar tone. We did look up what other characters most of the female leads were, but we didn't look at their who or if anyone they played in Higurashi. Thanks for sharing that, man. Even so, Natsuhi would lose face if she gave up, saying it was impossible and letting Ava go instead. Ava's mean-spirited and unreasonable demand made Natsuhi clench her fists slightly. When Genji realized this, he softly spoke to her over her shoulder.
奥様、
Ma'am,
よろしければこれをお持ちください。
take this if you would.
それは
And this Genji handed Natsuhi a sparkling gold key of ornate design. Oh my god, he gave her the key to the room? It was the key to Kinzo's study. The study had an auto lock and couldn't be unlocked as long as Kinzo forbade entrance. However, since Genji was especially trusted by Kinzo, he was allowed to carry a key to that door?
でもこの鍵を使ったら あなたも咎めを受けるのではあ
But
り
if
ま
I
せん
use
か。
this key, would you receive the blame?
親方様は深くお休みになられている時、
The master
扉を
is
叩
sleeping
くくらい
deeply.
ではお耳に届かないこともございます。
Simply knocking on the door will not suffice.
それに親方様にお部屋を出ていただくよう説得する
It
に
would be more difficult to persuade him to
親
leave
御
his
しで
room
は難しゅうございましょう。
if he must talk through the door. That's fair. Alright, he's like, you gotta go in there and wake him up because he's probably sleeping.
ぜひお
Please
使い
use
くだ
this.
さい。
源氏。
Genji. Until now, Natsuhi had thought of Genji as a cold servant who wouldn't do anything for her since he worked directly under Kinzo, but it looked like she'd have to alter her understanding of him. She wanted to communicate her gratitude, but by then Genji had already turned his back on her and was walking down the corridor with Cannon. As Natsuhi watched them go, the words directed at her from behind were sneering.
じゃあお父様を必ず連れてきてね。
Well then, you must bring father with you, okay? I think Genji is just like thinking in his head, he's like, fuck this dumb bitch. He's like, fuck this stupid bitch. Like, at least, I'm gonna at least give her a shot, because she's like asking her to move a fucking mountain. She's like, why aren't we in, why don't you change the weather for us real quick? Just make it all sunshine and rainbows. And you're like, yeah, no one could do that, but alright.
息子のかわいい嫁の言うことですもの。きっと聞いてくれるわよ。
After all, it's his son's precious wife who's asking. I'm sure he'll listen to you.
私たちは客人だから、ここでのんびりくつろがせてもらうわ。
We're guests, so we'll just relax here at our leisure.
予算かえば口が過ぎるで。
But Eva, you're taking this too
す
far.
まんが夏日姉さん、お父さんのことをよろしく頼むわ。
Sorry, Natsuhine-san, but we're counting on you to deal with father. Without answering, Natsuhi forcefully spun around on her heels and quickly left the place. Lovely person to interact with. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was waking up early. George, Aniki, and Jessica and I were loudly snoring on the beds in the cousin's room. But Maria, who'd gone straight to bed without joining in, was completely awake. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with the loud snoring of the other three cousins. For a while, she had to think about what happened. After that, she realized her mother wasn't with her and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin's room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him. After a while, she returned, once again opening the door with a lively bang. Alright. When she left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now she was back, and she looked irritated. After that, she climbed on Battler's bed, which happened to be the closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline. Oh no, the wake up. The wake up call. Wake up! Wake up. Oh. Enemy raid? Who answers like that? Surround what? Surround them? After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George Aniki's bed and started jumping on that too. In that manner, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening.
ありがとう、マリアちゃん。
Thanks for
起こし
waking
て
us
く
up,
れたんだ
Maria.
ね。僕たちは夕べが遅かったから寝坊しちゃったのを起こしてくれたんだ
You
ね。
stopped us from sleeping in after that late night. Who would thank someone? Only George.
もう少しだけ起こし方を優しくしてく
If
れると
only you could have been a bit more
完璧だった
gentle
か
about
な
it.
ジョージ兄さんは本当に大人だよ。尊敬するぜ。
George, Nissan, you really are an adult. I respect that. Yeah, I'm with Jessica. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna thank anyone for waking me up while I'm sleeping for no reason.
もうすぐ7時なんだな。
It'll be 7 a.m. soon.
確かにもう起きてもいい頃だ
It's
ぜ。
not really a bad time to wake up. Well, they would theoretically miss breakfast in this place since you want breakfast at like 7 or 8. Mama's not here? She's moderately upset.
ローザおばさんが
Aunt
部屋
Rosa?
にいなかったの？
She wasn't in her
もう
room?
起きてお屋敷の方に行っちゃったのかな。
I wonder if she's already woken up and gone to the mansion. Not here. Oh, I mean, you can guess what she was saying there. Maria kept groaning, and looking unhappy. She didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mom wasn't where she expected. If we could just tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down, but unfortunately we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here.
どうせ朝食に行くことになるんだし、屋敷の方に行こうぜ。
I like... You know that crowd anyway. You know that crowd anyway, Brandon. Anyway, it's time for breakfast. Let's head over to the mansion.
そうだな。
That's right.
マリア、一緒に屋敷へ行こうぜ。
Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay? Go look for your mom there.
きっとローザおばさんもそこさ。
I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there too.
お
Huh?
ママはお屋敷
Mama's in the mansion.
なら行く。
Go there.
お
Oh.
そうだね。
Guess
お
we
屋
should
敷
go to the
に多
mansion.
分親たちはもう向こうに行ってるんだよ。
Our parents have probably already gone there. Arya regained her usual composure so completely her earlier tantrum seemed like a lie. I like how Maria's dialogue's simple so I can understand most of it. And if I don't understand it, it's because it's a new noun and she says it enough that I can maybe remember. Like, Mama got Yanai. I'm pretty sure that says Mom's not there. And she's using Iru instead of Aru because she's animated. Presumably not dead, you know? Like an animated character, so instead of Aru we use Iru, and it's Irunai because it's not present, it's not there. She said Mama not there. Pretty straightforward. It's nice though. I'm correctly parsing this in Japanese, and the English is showing up, and I'm like, that sounds exactly right. Got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Once more, there was a knocking sound on the study door, but there was no answer. He seemed to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him. If she went back downstairs and said something like that, Eva would probably be amused and triumphant. Even putting Eva aside, it was problematic that Kinzo had stayed shut away during the entire once-a-year conference, not even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially the family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. Yep, there's an Umineko anime with a great OP and a decent ending, right? A decent ending song, right? And it only covers some of the arcs. Okay. I didn't know what it covered, but thanks. It only covers the question arc, so theoretically it covers half the story. Okay. I wonder if I can convince him myself. Dude, your husband couldn't have. Genji can't. You have literally zero hope. The best hope she has is that he's fucking dead. Okay, that is what I'm saying. Before we go through this door, her best hope is that he died last night. And then she has an excuse, and she's like, "Look, I checked. He's fucking dead." And yeah, now inheritance woes begin. Natsuhi readied herself and used the key she borrowed from Genji to open the door. At least she's brave. At least she's brave enough to try. I'll give her credit for that, although I don't know if she processed the fact that Kraus hadn't actually been in to see him. Because Kraus is lying to her face too, right? He hasn't told her that he hasn't seen his father either. He just said like he's sick. He'll wait for the miracle of an anime remake. Well, like, if enough people want it to happen and put forth their best effort, it will happen, right? We learned that from Higurashi. So, check door. Open sesame. It's the secret password, right? Even though she was prepared for the sweet stench which seemed to eat into one's brain as it poured out the small crack in the door, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking he might be sleeping, Natsuhi entered the room quietly. When she did, Kinzo was already awake and looking down out the window.
お目覚めでしたか。
Oh, you're awake.
おはようございます。
Good morning.
どうやって入ったのか。
How did you get in? Kinzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh but calm, and Natsuhi was slightly reassured. However, though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsuhi wasn't able to relax.
申し訳ございませんでした。
My sincere
源
apologies.
氏さんにお願いして書斎の鍵をお借りさせていただきました。
I asked Genji, and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study.
ほう、元気がか。
Genji did.
我が友がそれに足ると思ったならば、話を聞かぬわけにもいくまい。
If my friend thought it that important, I have no choice but to listen.
して、私に何用か。
So, what business do you have with me?
はい。
She has the most trivial of business. She wants him to come down.
もうじき朝食の準備が整いますが、ぜひお父様にもおいでいただきたく思いまして。
Breakfast will be ready soon. I would greatly appreciate if you would join us.
朝食はここで取る。
I will eat here.
いつものように運ばせるがいい。
Have it brought here as always.
しかしお父様、
Father,
年に一度の親族会議です。
this family conference happens only once
せ
a
めて
year.
お顔をお見せになってください。
At least let them see your face.
下に降りて、
Go back
私
downstairs.
の死後、遺産をどのように食いちぎるのかを決める議論に加われというのか。
Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as they discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to go down either. It's pretty disgusting, and he knows what's going on. He's like, fuck these people. You want an actual remake of Umineko? Like an actual remake and not a pseudo-sequel like the Higurashi remake? Quote-unquote? You don't think there needs to be more Umin universe other than, like, more side stories? Yeah. Yeah, that would be kind of nice. A proper remake that's high quality would be nice, but we don't really see a lot of that in anime. And honestly, as annoying as it is, I'd prefer if they didn't do it, because, man, going to Hollywood and seeing really shitty remakes of your favorite series really sucks. Like, oh, this movie's great, and they just made the exact same movie, and it's for $1 bajillion more, and it sucks, and nobody likes it. And they just keep doing that and somehow make money off that. That's the worst part. It's like profitable to make shitty copies of movies people liked. You're like, please don't do that. Please don't do that, anime studios, because if someone does a remake and it's super profitable and everyone loves the remake, they're going to do that, and soon it'll be nothing but remakes. Remake after remake after remake of all the classics, doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. Like, please keep making good stories in anime. I want a new story. I want a new side story. I don't want the same fucking story told to me by people who just want to leave their mark on the IP instead of people who want to make a good story. How foolish.
そのような話は私を抜きで好きに進めるがいい。
Let them speak of such matters as much as they please without me.
そしてそれが親族会議だというなら、私がこの部屋を出るほどの価値はない。
If that's what you call a family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for
私
it.
は忙しいのだ。
I'm busy. I'm curious what he's doing. Is anyone going to ask him what he's doing?
構うでない。
Do not bother me. His last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath upon her. Okay, change your tactics. Come on, Natsuhi. Don't make demands. Everyone before you has failed. Think of something intelligent. Use your brain. You don't need to bring him down, but maybe do something to demonstrate you've talked with him. Be like, oh, you're doing something? What are you working on, man? Even if he's like, it's none of your concern, be like, well, I'm interested because we got like some really weird shit going on the mansion. Maybe that would be a good pitch, but like saying things. She didn't look forward to facing Eva's sarcasm, but there was nothing more Natsuhi could do.
そうですか。
Is that so?
わかりました。
Understood.
みんな残念がるでしょうが、そう伝えます。
I'm certain everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them. Natsuhi decided to give up. Aw, that's disappointing. Can you please redirect your focus and ask a question? I want to know more about what he's thinking or doing. Bowing silently, she tried to leave the room before Kinzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. Don't see the word spasmodic very often. Damn, alright. As she did, Kinzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle it felt like it came from an entirely different person.
Natsuhi.
Natsuhi.
後ろ宮の家に嫁ぎ、もう随分になるな。
It's been quite some time since you married into the Ishiromiya family.
はい。
Yes.
後宮を名乗ることを許されてから、もう随分になります。
It's been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Ushiromiya.
前の家が恋しくなることもあるか。
Do you sometimes long for your previous family?
いいえ。
No.
嫁ぐとは、生家を捨てることです。
Marriage means abandoning your birth family.
私は後宮夏日。
I'm Ushiromiya Natsuhi.
帰る家も、懐かしむ家も、すべてはこの後宮の家のみです。
The Ishiromiya family is the only family I can come home to and the only one I'm fond of. She truly wasn't exaggerating. I mean, she can't go back to her old family, so... Such was the resolve she felt whenever she applied the Ishiromiya family name to herself. And that's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like an Ishiromiya, leaving her to race about in vain. If Kraus were a woman, and you his husband. I won't say that. Yeah, damn, he's like, is he just implying here that he would prefer if Natsuhi was a man who married into his family because he actually likes her? That's fucking brutal, by the way. He's like, man, I don't like my son fucking sucks. I wish you were my son. That's at least a nice compliment. Even if you can't really share it or flex it on anyone, that's gotta be nice, right? Because he's all about like the male inheritance line, so he's like, man, he's wishing his firstborn was a woman so that the female character here could be the one who's in command. He's like, damn, I wish she was decent. We'd be fucking set.
それは
What do you mean by that?
どういう意味ですか、お父様。
Natsuhi was shocked. If Kinzo's words just now are what they seemed, it would mean more than enough to make up for all she suffered up to that point. Forget it. The nonsense of an old man. I mean, he's not going to confirm that. He said Kinzo once again faced away from her. He told her to forget it, but Natsuhi couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart.
お父様、この夏日は血はつながらずともお父様の娘です。
Even though I, Natsuhi, am not connected to you by blood, I'm still your daughter.
後宮家の名誉も栄光も、
I'll most assuredly see to it.
お父様が残されたものもすべて、
I'll most assuredly see to it. Your honor and glory and all you've left
この
behind.
夏日が必ずや守ってみせますから。
He does. Oh, bad choice. He doesn't care about that. But
お前に片翼のわしをまとう資格はない。
you do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle.
お前の心には確かに片翼のわしが刻まれている。
However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your
な
heart.
らばお前は間違いなく我が血族で後宮家の栄光を引き継ぐものだ。
That's irrefutable proof you're my blood relative, one who will inherit the glory of the Ishiromiya
お前
family.
の衣服にわしがないことを嘲笑う者もいよう。
Some will sneer that there is no eagle on your
しか
clothes,
しそれに耳を貸すことはない。
but such words are not worth lending an ear
心
to.
にわしを持つ者だけが真の私の血族なのだ。
Only those who hold the eagle in their hearts are my true blood relatives. Well, that's the nicest way to say, fuck the haters. A very elegant way to say that.
家に迎えられたことを今は光栄に思っている。
I now consider it an honor you were welcomed into the Ishiromiya family. Without saying anything more, he remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, she couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago when she had been just a child. She bowed silently to his back and left the room. He's like, yeah, I kind of like you. Fuck the haters. Anyway, bye. Good time. How's father? You were taking so long, I came to check. When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Eva climbing the stairs and their eyes met. She was smirking unpleasantly, thinking Natsuhi would leave drudgingly after failing to convince Kinzo. However, the way Natsuhi was now, such a frivolous laugh wouldn't disturb her. She wasn't permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently with the dignity of one who would protect the Ushiromiya family's glory. Father said he won't join in on the family conference. He says he has no interest in discussing such obscene matters. Figured you'd say something like that. If you failed to persuade him, just say so. How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why father lamented so. What do you mean by that? That was probably the first line Natsuhi's had that's actually been good. That was nice. She's like, damn, I'm starting to see why he doesn't like fucking any of you, and just leaves. She's like, what? What do you mean? Natsuhi did not answer. The right flex was just to leave, be like, I said what I said, bye. As Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Eva her back as she headed down the stairs. Eva finally realized she was being made fun of, that something had happened to quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. And even so, she apparently didn't have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue and make a motion as though scratching at it and follow after Natsuhi. So, were Nissan and the rest there? Did you ask father about them? I did not ask. I didn't get the chance to ask, sorry. She speaks much more elegantly than that, alright? But they were not inside the study. Father would never let them into his room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it's unlikely he knows where they went. Let's go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Eva-san? I'll be fine. Eva couldn't hide her confusion at the complete difference in Natsuhi's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Eva hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Eva could only follow Natsuhi back to the parlor. She's here to just flex on people by being better than them. When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had been joined by the 4 children and Nanjo. Genji, who'd been talking with the Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsuhi had returned. You've not found my husband and the rest? Yes, my apologies. Well, there's not too much you can do. Kumasawa has started preparing breakfast. She said she will need just a little longer. The clock read a little past 8. 8 should have been the time to start breakfast, and normally going over that time limit would be a disgrace to the host. Cannon's now searching outside. I'm surprised they let Kumasawa cook. I guess she's supposed to be semi-competent, but, like, I'm sure I would have probably, like, left it to... I probably would have had, like... Wait, where is Shannon's missing, right? Maybe they don't have Shannon, so they can't have her cook. I was gonna say, Shannon's been here, like, 6 years. Surely she's good enough to cook. Well, Genji does the admin. I would have, like, assigned Genji, the stoic one, and able to handle weird stuff, to manage things. Have Cannon out and Shannon cooking, but I guess Shannon's missing, so there's that. Shannon's presumably missing, right? There we go.
シャノンの姿も見えます。
Also, no one's seen Shannon either. By the way, this is our 6th, right? Shannon is the 6th missing. If we do a nice quick count of heads missing, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kumasama's been here as long as Genji she can cook. I thought it said she was like below average servant though. Oh, it's just because of her chattiness and love of rumors, my bad. She's a part-timer who, though she quit her job several times along the way, has served the family for many years in total. She's crafty and more than competent. Oh, it says more than competent, my bad. Because of her chattiness, she's not highly regarded as a servant. I didn't remember her exact dialogue. I knew she quit multiple times, so I don't know how much her actual total experience is, other than that she's been back and forth, so maybe it's like 1 year on, 1 year off, which axes her time to half as long as Genji's, right? Assuming these both start at the same time. She's been serving like maybe half as much. I don't know how much it was. It's probably like 5 years on, 5 years off, something. And then I only remember that she's not highly regarded as a servant. I didn't remember that she is more than competent when it comes to performing duties. That's saying she's above average. Okay. So she can definitely cook the meal. Alright. Well, they got that covered. But anyway, we have 6 people missing, and we are promised 6 sacrifices. Chan's been here 10 years, not 6? Oh, yeah. She's been here a really long... Yeah, it's normally 3, and she's been there considerably longer. Also, she has, like, a tattoo. Is that a tattoo of the family crest on her? Like, everyone else wears it on their clothes. I don't know if she is wearing stockings with the crest on them, or if she has a literal yellow tattoo on her thigh, but that's what I keep thinking that is. And I'm like, damn, are you serious? Everyone else wears it as clothing, and she's like, tattooed on my thigh. Like, we take this shit seriously. Alright.
Shannon まで?
Even Shannon's missing?
まったく。主人は何を従えて散歩に出かけたのですか?
Truly, how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk? It's a good conversation piece. You're like, wow, what's that? Oh, it's a tattoo. Can I see the tattoo? Oh, that's awesome. How many people had gone missing now? 6. Now that number was this large, he was starting to feel truly unpleasant, as though the people here were the only ones being left out of something very interesting. At least that seemed to reflect the feelings of the children and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. The other children were flipping through the channels on the TV, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up again. Those don't count as tramp stamps? That they're not. That they have there is a specific location for a tattoo to be a tramp stamp. It's not on your thigh. It's right around the waistline on your back. Nancho was reading on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. It must have been a book about chess. Well, he's got to catch up. The sound of footsteps came rushing toward them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so they realized before seeing it that it probably belonged to Cannon, not Kraus and the rest. Ma'am, excuse me.
その様子では見つけられなかったようですね。
Judging by your appearance, you haven't been able to find them.
申し訳ございません。
My apologies. I still haven't...
もう十分です。
That's enough.
ご苦労をかけました。
You've worked hard. You didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on the island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come plodding back of their own accord before long. And by now, Natsuhi was thoroughly exasperated and started to feel there was no reason for them to go out of their way in search.
私はお客様方にお茶のご用意をしに厨房へ行きます。
I will go to the kitchen to prepare tea for all the
二人
guests.
とも早朝からご苦労様でした。
Thank you for all your hard work so early in the morning. Natsuhi left the parlor, acting as though the release in tension had caused a new surge in her headache. Cannon tried to call her back, but Natsuhi left swiftly. Yeah, tramp stamps are very specific in location.
どうした?
What is it?
まだ何かあるのか?
Was there something else?
はい。
Yes.
旦那様方のお姿を見つけることはでき
I
ま
was
せん
unable
でし
to
たが
find them. Her husband or anyone else, but...
そう。
Cannon sounded evasive. It looked as though he didn't know where they were, but it spotted something that might be connected to their disappearance. Ava and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. It's 6. It's the number 6. It's relevant. They'd probably picked up on something strange in Cannon's behavior.
どうしたんや、カノン君。
What's going on,
ク
Cannon-kun?
ラウス兄さんたちは見つかったんか？
Did you find Kraus, Nissan, and everyone else?
実は
Actually,
バラ庭園の倉庫の様子がおかしいのです。
the Rose Garden storehouse looks strange.
様子がおかしい
What do you mean?
というのはどういう意味だ
It looks strange.
それが
It was a...
その何と説明すればいいのか。
How do I explain it? Cannon hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what you'd expect from this usually fearless boy, and seeing this, Ava and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously.
どういうこと？
What do you mean?
倉庫の中に兄さんたちがいたんじゃないの？
Are you saying Nissan and the others were inside the storehouse?
いえ、中はこれから調べます。
No, I'm going to inspect the inside
その
now.
鍵を取りに戻ったところなのですが。
I just came back to get the key, but...
その
ようわからんが、とにかく中を調べればいいだけの話やないか。
I don't get it, but it sounds like we gotta look around inside
そ
it.
の倉庫の鍵はどこにあるんや？
Where's the key to that storehouse?
使用人室にあります。
It is in the servant
すぐ
room.
に中を確かめましょう。
Let's check inside the storehouse at once. Was someone coming with him? Cannon dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor saying he would go check, but then Ava and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was this something strange about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Cannon to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity over this something that Cannon couldn't talk about won out. I'm surprised Battler isn't doing this. I'd totally be like, oh, there's something weird about the storehouse? Fuck it, let's go check it out. Like, I'm bored. I'm setting the TV channel for a fucking 9-year-old. Like, if there's anything that entertains her, I'm probably gonna want to leave immediately, because we're probably gonna be watching like the Japanese equivalent. We're watching Doraemon or whatever. What it is, like the Japanese equivalent of like fucking Dora the Explorer, and I'm gonna want to like jump out a window, because I'm gonna be so freaking bored. Like, I'll be like, yeah, I'll go inspect the storehouse and maybe fix the door or something, because that'd be more interesting than watching this. So, yeah, while the children made a fuss over watching television, Cannon and the rest dashed over to the entrance. Or maybe they're arguing about trying to find something that everyone would agree on. Who knows? The Rose Garden storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building. Because of its appearance, it had been built so it was hidden in a corner of the Rose Garden. Cannon, Genji, Ava, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the garden holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the Rose Garden, which was normally off limits for those appreciating the garden and only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down it, the storehouse came into view in front of them. Okay, I see like a garage door. It was an old shed, and compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the Rose Garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. Ava and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Cannon and Genji.
カノン君たちは早いな。
You two sure are fast. Well, they're on their
わし
feet
は
all day.
心臓が爆発しそうや。
I thought my heart was going to explode.
こんなところに倉庫なんか建ててたのね。
I never knew they had a storehouse over here. What? What?
何よそれ。
What's that? When Ava looked where Cannon was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi followed after Cannon's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter. And there, everyone suddenly realized where Cannon was unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, completely filthy from being exposed from the rain and wind for so long, stuck right on it. There was something that looked like a strange dark red liquid. Mucus? Yes. Always, yes, guys. This is mucus. That's right, snot. Snot is typically red. No one buying that? No one buying that? Yeah, me neither. Maybe it was some sticky paint. That's more likely. An indescribable eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Some kind of mark was drawn there with a ghastly substance that looked like blood, in a shape that seemed to suggest something ominous. 2 circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like a crest from somewhere around Europe. In the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters or possibly symbols.
What
a vulgar bit of graffiti. If it was actual blood, it would not be bright red. Yeah, it probably wouldn't be bright red at this point. So, it could be paint. That's why I said paint's reasonable. Especially in this rain. It could be paint. Although the paint, if it was like most kinds of paints, it would probably just be washed off by the rain, right? So would blood. Like if you put blood on this shed door in the middle of a typhoon, there is like 0% chance that that blood would be there in like an hour. Let alone how many hours they've been searching, which is 2 hours. They've been searching 2 hours, remember? 2 hours after the disappearances, there'd be no blood here. Could this be one of those? Magical circle used in demonic ceremonies? It wasn't surprising that Hideyoshi would say that about such a ghastly shape drawn with a deep red dripping substance. When was this made?
昨日雨が降り出す前にここに来ましたが、その時には何も書かれてませんでした。
I came here before it started raining last night, and there was nothing drawn here at the time. We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they lay eyes upon it, it would cause them great discomfort. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done too much work with like with like room paints and outdoor paints, but like they probably won't set in the rain. And like water-based paints. Water-based paints can kind of survive, like a bit of water on them, but they won't set at all with water. They'll instantly dilute. Wax? It could be wax. Wax is of course what you use to seal things off. Like you can use wax to seal pipes to make them waterproof or watertight. So that would work. That would be a substance. A red wax, perhaps. Melted wax would work from like a candle if you got a red, like if you imagine like a red candle. A blood red candle would theoretically look like that, and it would set as long as it's not an extremely high temperature. I think it would set. So yeah, you could do that with wax. Where you get enough wax to make a giant ass, I'm thinking like this is like head height, so I'm thinking like a big ass symbol that covers like half the garage door. That'd be a bit strange. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second more than I had to. There's paint inside the storehouse. Let's paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure. Will the paint set outside? We'll repaint it again someday when the weather's good. Genji remembered he had recently seen another scribble, and that too had been made with a strange dark red substance, the same color as this. And he said dark. They're saying dark red, not light red. I know the color on our screen was light red, like fire engine red, but they're saying dark red, so it could actually be blood that they just changed the color of to make it like brighter. Right? Like dark red is the color of blood, but they're not saying dark red. Like the picture is not dark red, but the description is dark red. That must have been. That's right, he saw it on the door to Natsuhi's room. Kanon. Let's remove this quickly and go back. It's really, even though it's just a storehouse, it's irritating to have graffiti around the home I was brought up in. Yes, ma'am. I will take care of it immediately. Cannon squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it with all his strength. Suddenly the lights. A boisterous noise sounded in the eerie shape drawn began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, the drawing disappeared from their direct gaze and they breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to a kids program they came across, Maria was feeling much better. A note that it cut immediately. I'd just like to point that out. It cut the second the thing came up, so we don't know if there's anything inside there. So keep that earmarked in your head. It could be blood. Always trust the descriptions over the exact visuals. Yeah. I feel like the descriptions... I feel like they, like... Descriptions are there before they finalize the, It's hard to tell sometimes, right? Because either they could have done the... They could have edited the text later for clarity after commissioning the pieces, or it could be a weird translation. Because we are... Yes, the images are remade for the PS3 version. Correct, we are using the remade images. This is the PC version, but we are using the remade images. But, like, the translation could change things. But in most cases, they would have just used, like... They would use scarlet or red if they wanted to mean just red. So either the person doesn't know what they're implying or the art's wrong. Because I've seen the art be wrong a few times in visual novels. It's not the end of the world, but, like... It seems that the art is more often wrong than the description. Like, the description's clear and the art's clear and they both depict the same different things. But it's usually like you want the description, and the description will make sense with the rest of the novel, whereas the picture can be just slightly off. I imagine they probably commission it as the right thing, and then maybe it doesn't look great as what they want, so they tweak it to look a little bit more in the tone they're looking for, you know? You know, style it up. It's like, well, it's supposed to be blood, but blood doesn't look great this way, so let's, like, change this around. Let's make it brighter. That would look cool. It's like, yeah, blood doesn't look like that, but it looks better in the image, right? I think that's what they do sometimes. And then other times they're just censoring it, like, you know, in Danganronpa when they use purple, bright magenta. Or, no, it's pink. It's pink, right? Yeah, it's pink. What am I talking about? Magenta? Pff, it's pink. He was like bright pink for blood. And you're like, well, obviously blood's not that color, but they're like sort of censoring to get around like depictions of blood or something. Battler and Jessica were poking fun at the kids' show at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. I'm kind of surprised that they're cackling and Maria's not, like, screaming at them about how they're inaccurate or their judgments are rude or something. Because she seems to be consistently the person who's, like, when they make a joke, she takes it ultra seriously and they have to not joke around her ever because she won't get it. So I'm kind of surprised they can sit there and make jokes about the TV show she's watching without her having a fucking fit at them. Imagine not having a shitpost. But shitposting's a way of life for people. You can't tell them to stop. So Nanjo's just chilling out reading. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of 4 that just left? It was Genji. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of servant virtues, to be gasping for air. He'd probably come dashing from the outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small silent bow and quickly approached him.
Nanjo-sensei, 申し訳ございません.
Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Oh god, he's asking for Nanjo. He's asking for Nanjo. What did they find? You know how we said, that's weird, they cut away? Genji's running up to you and asking for you? That's a red flag. Come with me quickly. This is not looking good. All your alarms... Please come with me quickly. The doctor's alarm in his head should just be like, wait, what? I'm needed? What's the matter? As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. I'm guessing they found bodies? He rose from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV, and the two of them rapidly left the parlor, shuffling or muffling their footsteps. As they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a servant cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear. Natsuhi went pale too in apparent shock. And then, leaving the servant cart where it was, the 3 of them dashed towards the entrance. Okay, she literally left the cart. You know what to expect now, right? George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window.
なんだろ
What's that?
う、源氏さんと南條先生と、
Isn't that Genji, Dr.
あ
Nanjo,
れ
and
は夏日おばさんかな。
what, Natsuhi?
どうしたんだよ、兄貴。
What's up, Aniki?
何かあったのかな。
Maybe something
ひどい
happened.
慌てようだったね。
They looked terribly flustered. When Jessica and Maria saw that Ava, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the serving cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor, they also realized something was the matter.
何か事故でもあったとか？
Drowning pools let the bodies hit the floor. Oh, could there have been some kind of accident?
行ってみようぜ。
Let's go check it out.
俺たちだけのけ者なんて面
It's
白
no
くね
fun
え
if
し
we're the
な。
ones left out, right? Dragging Maria to this? You're gonna regret that. For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet. They called for the doctor, and he went running. And you're like, we're gonna drag Maria to this. This doesn't look good. They couldn't deny they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run out into the rain without regards to their appearance.
行ってみようぜ。
Let's check it out, okay?
何があったか気になるぜ。
I'm worried something might have happened. Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them.
おい、マリア。
Yeah, let's drag Maria to this. You don't enjoy gore, you swear? Yeah, but Battler's dumb enough to bring Maria to this.
それとも、
Or are you
テ
gonna
レ
watch
ビを見
TV?
てるか？
マリアはテレビがいい。
I wanna watch TV.
僕たちだけで行こ
Let's go with
う。マ
Odin.
リアちゃん、すぐ戻るからね。
Maria-chan, we'll be back
テレ
soon.
ビを見て待ってるんだよ。
You keep watching TV, alright? By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight, but Jessica seemed to have a pretty good idea where they'd gone, judging by the direction they'd been running. Following Jessica, we ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began ringing out like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island and was trying to stop us from moving forward.
ジェシカ、この先には何があるんだ？
Jessica, is there something over here?
確か園芸道具なんかの倉庫があった
I'm
は
sure
ずだ
there's
ぜ
the。storehouse for gardening tools or something.
そんなところに
What
一
could be
体
going
何
on
が
in
あ
a
るんだ
place
ろう
like
ね。
that? Just as Jessica said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutters to the storehouse were open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. The ones who left earlier, Kanon, Ava, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making a small crowd of people. But there was no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that children were approaching, a terrible expression rose in her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide.
来てはいけません。
You mustn't come any closer.
お屋敷へ戻っていなさい。
Go back to the mansion. Despite that, no. Because of that, the kids saw the scene Nazi was trying to keep them away from. Alright, let's see it. Inside the storehouse with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down. And right there was... Ooh, a jump scream! A jump scare, that was cool! A nice screamer. Alright. Anyone else betting there was gonna be a scream there? I'm afraid I wasn't quite, I'm afraid I wasn't quite caught off guard, but I mean, I've been caught by random screamer gifts before, so, once you get caught by like one or two of those, it's really hard for random screams to get you, especially when it's like, oh, I'm about to see some bodies. Is someone gonna scream? Like, you just instantly get prepared for something. Here we go! Jessica's piercing shriek ran out, but that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. 3, 2, 1 picture? I mean, we saw white. Ava spread her arms like Natsuhi, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face.
ジョージ、みんなを連れて屋敷に帰っていなさい。
George, take everyone and return to the mansion.
早く、
Quickly.
今すぐに。
Right now. When Natsuhi spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing. But that wasn't why Ava was spreading her arms. She was trying to stop us from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart, trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us by blocking our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. He's... Is this some kind of joke, is it? That's all we get? I'd seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. Is this all we're getting? Ah. In manga, TV, anime, and movies, I'd seen it over and over again. This was just, well, seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in one of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't... But that suit... It's that old bastard's, isn't it? I get it. Then that's Uncle Kraus, and Kiri, and Aunt Rosa. Ugh. Well, that's Dad. Dad? You mustn't, Jessica. Don't go in. You mustn't go in. Don't look. Rigor mortis is set in across the entire body. Hold up. Is he gonna give a time with that? Most likely 6 hours or more. Yeah, I was gonna say rigor mortis doesn't set in immediately. Your body relaxes and it takes several hours. So 6 or more hours since time of death. It's 8 o'clock, so they died at 2 a.m. or earlier, so between midnight and 2. We have a time of death. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area, there's a high probability they were damaged after their deaths. I gotta watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner examining corpses outside my area of expertise. Well, we're trapped. You're gonna be the best person to investigate this as best you can. What does that mean? Killing them wasn't enough? They went on to do something like this? The devil. This is the work of the devil! Don't disturb the scene. Aunt Natsuhi caught Jessica in her arms, and Ava caught George. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. Ah. If only there'd been someone there to catch me too. Yeah, the music's fucking bouncing. I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible scene, evil scene burned into my eyes. Well, all I'm seeing is a storehouse. I'm seeing a storehouse. Come on. I've seen like 30 murder scenes in Danganronpa. I'm good with this. That's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me, well, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle and hammer. Some carpentry tools such as a saw, piled up potted plants, bags of fertilizer. Treated just the same, the corpses of several people had been laid to rest there, or rather tossed in there. I guess this is all we're getting. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard in Kiri-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda and... Are there still more of them? How many people died? You're kidding me. Oh, it says you're fucking kidding me. I can't even count them on one hand, damn it! That was verbatim, by the way. You're fucking kidding me? I can't count them on one hand. I didn't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools, which if used for something other than their intended purpose could be wielded with naked brutality, or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, each of the bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or noses were, but I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, gums exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all this were torn up and laid bare. The trendy makeup you always spend so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now. So they smashed the head in, the front of the head is smashed in, and then they like sliced the cheeks open, and like maybe sliced off their lips. Interesting. Okay, and then like removed some of their teeth. Okay, yeah, that's probably like post-death. Given the guys made the assumption of like 6 hours, 2 hours. That's a lot of time to kill 6 people like that. Especially when at least 2 of them are up and awake, maybe? At least one of them is up and awake, right? Goda or Shannon will be awake and on night shift. So, at least one of them's awake? Hmm. I always thought you were going to hell. Not like this, right? Killed with a blunt weapon, possibly? Yeah, blunt weapon to the head. If you weren't such a son of a bitch, you should have to suffer that brutally. Didn't I tell you to stop going out with this guy? There's absolutely no reason for you to end up like this too. Remember when his dad said he's likely gonna be murdered tonight? I just wanted you to remember that for 2 seconds, Battler. Your dad said, I'm probably gonna be murdered tonight. So he knew this was coming, or was at least predicting something like this. Although I don't know if he was meaning literally or metaphorically. Got no faces. No faces. Alright. Battler, you mustn't look anymore. Your father and mother would... There's no way your father and mother would want you to see them like this. Umineko ain't too big on visual gore. You also imagine they don't want the potential of an inaccurate description for something like this messing up people's theories? Yeah, probably. I can see that happening. Yeah, you probably don't get an open casket ceremony. Alright. Oh. They're there, Dad. But you usually don't have open casket ceremonies for any mutilated bodies anyway. So, it's what it is. The manga, on the other hand, is super gory. Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're resting, sleeping peacefully, right? Actually, no. The embalmer makes it look like that. In case you're wondering, they don't look that natural. You have a nice embalmer. That's why there's a nice embalmer that's going to pretty up their face. There's a nice embalmer that's going to pretty up their face, give it a resting expression, and adjust their muscles to look more natural, like they're sleeping, right? I believe there's a several hours work in embalming to make it look like they're just naturally sleeping. So, Shiromiya's Battler is kind of wrong there. But he probably hasn't seen any bodies that haven't been embalmed in real life, so. He's got no faces. My dad and Kiri have no faces. I don't even know what kind of faces they are wearing when they die. What's wrong with me? Will I have to remember, see these smashed up monster-like faces every time I remember them? Yeah, that's the link from the manga depicting what their faces look like. Alright. That is pretty gory. That's great. I didn't want to remember the old bastard smug face anyway. Just great. Just great. Why even Kiri's face? I don't know. She's not a member of the family, but I guess she gets sacrificed. Kiri wasn't a crook? Sure, she ticked me off a bit now and then. But she was like cool big sister to me, right? This is wrong. It's that you hear sirens? It's actually the wind in the soundtrack. This is wrong. It's all wrong. But I like it. It sounds like sirens. You have to read the manga now because it looks awesome. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The drawing for the manga is quite detailed. It's quite detailed. They definitely put some effort into that. It's a nice splash. I assume that's a splash page? That's got to be a splash page, right? Three panels like that with a wide shot? That looks like it's a splash page. That'd be cool. At least Uncle Kraus has it better, doesn't he? It's not his... It's not his whole face, just the side. At least he's got half his face left, right? That's still better. So both his parents showed their faces, and Krause's is just half of them. Half of it's gone. Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words. Stop about Battler Kun is the kind of person who's like, I gotta describe everything in intense details. It's like, I gotta describe everything in as exquisite detail as possible so that everyone's aware of exactly what's happening. He's the kind of person that in an anime fight would actually be narrating it. You know that guy who's like, no way, he just reached Super Saiyan 2. Nobody's ever done that before. Oh my god, his hair looks so amazing. They're that person. They're that person. The person who sits in the background and just describes everything that's happening. Like Speedwagon. Battler, please just stop it. Aniki, you gotta see their faces. They're missing, man. Disregarding age and appearance. I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Alright, they're gone. Well, the ones lying dead. The ones lying over there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kiri, Aunt Rosa, and Goda. Just those 5, right? I'm sorry, George, but we're in a horror series. If you have any interaction with your girlfriend or something and you're not married, you are one of you or both of you is fucked. Sorry. It's just those 5, right? No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over here. The body Hideyoshi was looking down on happened to be hidden amongst the shadows in that mountain range of objects. In a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance, so George couldn't tell whose body it was. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact his worst guesses always turned out to be right. So the one lying at your feet is Shannon. Isn't it?
Oh.
Yes.
Shannon-chan.
It's Shannon. And now George has to sit there with all this guilt on his shoulders because he realizes, he might realize now that if he hadn't proposed to her, she wouldn't have gone to the main house and she wouldn't be dead. That's gotta feel shitty, right? That's gotta feel really shitty. Because he upset her, making her leave the house, she fucking died. That's fucking brutal, dude. Now, he couldn't reasonably have known that, but it still sucks. Actually, for all we know, hold up, how many people were in the house? Were there 6 people? Hold up. Maria, George, Battler, Jessica, Genji, Cannon. Is that the list of people in the guest house? Nope, there was the old lady as well. I think the old lady was there as well. Kumasawa was there. Yeah, it's 7. I was trying to count the numbers up because I was like, if they came to exactly 6 in the guest house without Shannon or with Shannon, I was gonna say, like, there's a good chance they could have all died. Yeah, Nanjo probably sleeps in the guest house too. Yeah, okay. Then again, like, there's no reason Hideyoshi didn't die unless he's the killer, right? So I was like, well, if there was only exactly 6 people in the guest house, then theoretically, like, being in the guest house could have been a bad place because that's exactly 6 people. And if you're in 2 rooms, then boom, first room, boom, second room, done. That said, everyone here seems to have been sleeping mostly alone. We'll see. In ones or twos. Alright. Shannon. R.I.P. Sorry, George. George fell completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly running forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father.
シャノンも
Is
フラ
Shannon
ンスおじさんたちと
same
同
as
じなのかな。
Uncle Kraus and the others? Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer, or rather he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give George. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others or not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state. Yeah, the survivors from the mansion are Kinzo, Natsuhi, Eva, and Hideyoshi. Yep. Yeah, he did give her a big-ass death flag, but he didn't know he was in a horror series. The water drop sound was the update noise. When you have a second, check the character screen. Oh, really? Hold up. There we are! Interesting. I didn't know that one. Thanks, dude. Okay, so we have these. Let's see. His corpse was found inside the rose garden. His face seems to have been smashed after his death. How unfortunate, he was originally supposed to be on duty in the guest house. Her corpse was found in the storehouse. It seems the side of her head was smashed in after her death. Oh, face, so it's where the blood splatter is. Side of her head. Don't worry, everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. Her corpse was found inside the rose garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. I'll get to see her again. I don't feel lonely. His corpse found inside the rose garden. His face seems to have been smashed. He has a right to lament his ill fortune. Her corpse was found inside the rose garden storehouse. Her face is smashed after her death. She was chosen by the demon's roulette. That's all there is to it. His corpse was found inside the rose garden storehouse. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems the side of his head was smashed after his death. This is the beginning of everything. So we vaguely know where the damage is. If you base it on the blood splatters, right? Left side of his head, whole face, completely obscured. This guy, you can see his jaw. Her entire head seems to have been destroyed. The top of his head's gone, and most of her head, you can see one of her eyes and maybe her mouth. Okay. Can I look at Shannon?
Yeah.
No. You can't.
どうして
Why
だ
not?
ってもう二度とシャノンの顔を見られないんだよ。
I won't be able to see your face again, right?
その最後の顔
So why won't she let me see
どうして見たらいけないんだよ。
what her face looked like at the end?
お前が最後にシャノンちゃんに会ったのは昨日か。
The last time you met Shannon was yesterday, right? Yeah.
そうか。
I see.
そのシャノンちゃんは
When you left her,
別れ際にお前にどんな顔を見せたんや。
what face was she showing you?
素敵な
It was a wonderful smile.
笑顔だったよ。
After he handed her the ring, she hesitated even though she must have already made up her mind. Then she looked bashful and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That's the expression that was revived in George's mind.
そうか。
I see.
ならシャノンちゃんもその笑顔をお前に残したいと願うはずや。
Then I'm sure Shannon would want to leave you with that smile in your memory. Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet, and just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state, it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half her expression remained. If the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers have peeked out? But only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only all of it had been crushed. He might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while proving beyond doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhuman. How brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes, as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Cannon. Cannon was not crying. Tears rose to his eyes, but they didn't drip down. It didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, who he loved as a sister, must have been the same as losing a blood relative.
George. シャノンちゃんはきっと
I'm sure Shannon
ありがとう言ってるお前に恥ずかしいところを見られとうなかったんや。
Sure she's saying thank you. She must be glad you didn't end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure.
お前が耐えてくれたこと。
She's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint.
分かってる。
I
分かってるよ、父さん。
I understand, Father. I understand.
分かってるよ。
George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply.
父さん、
Father,
頼みがあるんだ。
I have a request.
なんや。
What is it?
僕の代わりに見てほ
Look
しい。
for me.
シャノンは指に。
Ah. He said the Japanese tells me what he's looking for already. He said on Shannon's finger. But yeah, of course, we already knew that's what he was going to be asking anyway, right? Is there a ring on her finger?
指輪をつけてるかな。
Is there a ring on Shannon's finger?
指輪
A
ちょ
ring?
いと見てみる。
Let me see. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands.
あ
Yeah,
あ、あるで。
there is.
これはダイヤの指輪や。
The diamond
普
ring.
通ダイヤとちゃう。
It's a valuable
な
diamond.
かなかの値打ちもんや。
Must have been pretty expensive.
それは、
And
どっちの手の。
which hand?
どの指にあるの
Which
かな。
finger is it on?
と、
Hmm.
左手の薬指や。
Ring finger of her left
そっ
hand.
か。
I see.
シャノンちゃん、
So Shannon,
婚約しとったんか。
what's engaged?
ジョージ、
George? Don't tell me you.
まさか。
エヴァ今はそんなん関係
It
ない
doesn't
で。
matter now.
シャノンちゃんは男に将来を約束されとったんや。
Doesn't matter now. A man made a lifelong promise to
一
Shannon
生
Chan.
幸せにしちゃると男に言わせたんや。
A man promised her happiness for life.
それが誰かは問題とちゃうで。
Who it is isn't the issue here.
男にそこまで言わしめて。
Being told by a man like that is a woman's dream, isn't it?
いつこの指輪をもらったんかは知らん。
Yeah, big oof. I don't know when she received
誰
this
が
ring.
渡したかも知らん。
I don't know who gave it to
だ
her.
が
However,
それでもシャノンちゃんは指輪をもらえたんや。
even so, Shannon Chan took this ring. Then
そ
she
れを
accepted
受
it
け入れ
and put it on
左
her
の
left ring
薬
finger.
指に通したんや。指輪を送った男も
I'm sure the man who gave it to
喜
her
ん
was
だん
also
と
happy.
ちゃうか。
Most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words.
そっか。
I see.
ありがとう。
Thank you,
父さん。
Father. George stood up. Traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one.
行こ
Let's go.
う。バトラー君、ジェシカちゃん。
Battler, Jessica.
これ以上、僕たちがここにいると。
If we stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults.
そうだな。
You're right. Jessica sniffed once, showing her face to her mother who'd been holding her the whole time to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she couldn't smile.
バトラー、
Battler,
しっかり。
hang in there. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies.
すまねえな。が
Yeah,
っ
sorry.
つり泣いたら落ち着いたぜ。
Crying like hell calmed me down.
親父の野郎。 普段はクソクソ言ってるくせ
You
に
bastard. I bet you're laughing at
ち
me.
ょっと死んじまったくらいでピーピー泣くんじゃねえぜって
All that shit I talked about you, and here I am crying like a baby because you died. Ah, so what?
仕方ねえだろ親が死んだら泣くように遺伝子すり込まれちまってたからよ
I guess I just got that gene that makes you cry when your parents kick the bucket. Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a bitter one.
カノン、お前もこれ以上ここにいてはいけません。
You mustn't remain here any
子
longer
供た
either.
ちを連れて
Take the
お
children,
屋敷に戻っていなさい。
return to the mansion. Natsuhi had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving different from battlers. Realizing she had to take on the role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Cannon those orders.
はい
Yes,
奥様
ma'am. Cannon rose silently and turned to face me. His face was pure white, as though his own heart had died along with Shannon. There was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he'd been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Cannon might have led the way, but now there was no distinction between Cannon and the children. They were just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to him. After making sure the children were leaving, Natsuhi started giving orders to Genji.
現地、すぐに警察に連絡しなさい。
Contact the police immediately.
台風が通り過ぎるまでは来
They
られ
probably
ない
w示
でしょ
able to come until the typhoon
どう
passes,
すればいいか
but
指
they
示を
should be
与
able
え
to
て
tell
く
us
れる
what
は
to
ず
do
で
next.
す。
The phone lines are cut. They can't contact the police.
わかりました。
Understood.
防災用の無線機がありますので、それで連絡します。
There's an emergency radio. I will use that to contact them. When she heard that, Natsuhi remembered. That's right, the phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio, since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should be able to start by contacting the police and receiving instructions. Everything else could wait.
ナチョ先生、
Dr. Nancho,
この場は
is there anything more you can do here? What is he gonna do? They're all dead, right?
残念ながら
Unfortunately,
私には何もで
there's
きません。
nothing I can do.
わかりました。
Understood.
源氏、せめて主人たちの顔を
Genji, could you cover their faces
この
with
ような
something?
姿を晒すことは
Exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well.
屈辱的でしょうか。
はい。
Ma'am. Genji picked up several dried towels from inside the storehouse when Ava stopped him with a shrill voice.
ちょっとちょっと
Wait a
お待
second.
ちなさい
Stop.
よ。ここは犯行現場なんでしょ。
This is the scene of a crime,
な
isn't
ら
it?
変に手を加えちゃダメよ。
You mustn't
私
disturb
た
it.
ちは混乱してて現場に土足で踏み入っちゃったけど、それはきっと警察の捜査の邪魔になったわよ。
That is a thought. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right? Natsuhi glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses which had been humiliated even after death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. So they needed to be careful to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could to aid the police, preserving clues that might help them catch the detestable culprit.
私もエヴァさんに
I
賛
agree
成
with
です
Eva.
警察が来るまでここは手をつけずに
Until
し
the
ておくべ
police
き
come, we
です
should leave everything be.
奥様、いかがなさいますか。
What do you say, ma'am?
そうですね。
You're right.
わかりました。
Very well.
ここを閉ざしなさい。
Close
そ
it
れ
up.
から念のためここに別の施錠をするように。
And just in case, put a different lock on it.
別の施錠
A different lock?
ええ、
Yes.
ここに来た時シャッターの鍵は閉じていました。
When we came here, the shutter
と
was
いうこと
locked.
は
That
シャ
means
ッ
the
ターの
culprit
鍵を
used
使
the
い
key to the shutter to
犯
lock
人が
it.
施錠したということです。
確かに通りや。
That makes sense.
じゃあここを開けた限り犯人の指紋が残ってるんとちゃうんか。
Does that mean the key that opens this shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it?
警察に証拠として提出する価値はあるでしょうけ
It'll
ど、
be worth submitting to the police's
カ
evidence.
ノン君が普通に持ってここを開けるのに使用しちゃったわ。
But Cannon usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed
多
just now.
分カノン君の指紋も付着しちゃってるわよ。
It'll probably have Cannon's fingerprints
そ
on
し
it.
てその鍵はさっき源氏さんに手渡され、源氏さんも素手で受け取ってる。
The key was handed to Genji just now, and he took it with his bare
した
hands.
証拠にはなりそうにないわね。
It's unlikely it'll be useful as evidence.
それは不用心でした。
That was careless of me.
申し訳ご
My
ざいません。
apologies.
源氏さん、こ
Genji.
の倉庫の鍵は他にもあるんか？
Are there any other keys to the storehouse?
いいえ、
No.
この一つだけです。
Only this one in the servant room. The servant room
と
where
いうことは、犯人はその鍵を使用人室から持ち出し、
the culprit walked out of the servant room with
そ
that
して
key
律儀に元の場所に戻した。
and was nice enough to return the key to where they found it? Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but was actually very strange if you think about it. Why would they go through all the trouble of returning a key they stole? If you think about it more deeply, there's some points that are even more bizarre. When a criminal hides a body, they're usually trying to delay the point at which it will be found, so they use that time to escape. The 6 weren't necessarily killed here, but it was reasonable to assume they were killed somewhere on the island, carried to this storehouse, and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. And yet the eerie magic circle scribbled on the storehouse shutter had eloquently indicated the location of the corpses. Sure, it didn't explicitly mention corpses, but 6 people had gone missing. And in that situation, someone made such an obvious piece of graffiti and returned the key to the shutter? Almost as though they wanted the corpses to be discovered? Yeah, but they want to obfuscate who the killer is, right? If you're assuming it's a murder.
とにかく
Anyway,
一度は犯人が開け閉めをした施
we
錠だ
can't
け
put
で
our
は
faith in a lock
信
the
用できま
culprits
せん
opened once before.
犯人の手からもこの場所を保護する意味で施
If we
錠を
want to
新た
protect
に
this
したい
place
と言っ
from
て
the
いるの
culprit's
です
hand, we should put a new lock on it. Sensible.
いい案だと思います。
It's a good plan.
私も
I agree.
賛成です。
Genji fished around inside the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock that had been inside a small box. Now, on the other hand, if the culprit knows how to pick locks, not going to stop them. They can pick the lock and just seal it, close it again.
鍵はどうなさ
What
い
should I
ます
do with the key?
私が持ちましょう
I'll take it.
責任を持って警察に手渡し
I will
ます
take responsibility and hand it to the police. Natsuhi took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, they all exited and lowered the shutter. And so the corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, which was still covered with that creepy magic circle. Genji crouched in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. Shutters often have a place in front where you can attach your own lock in addition to the main lock of the shutter. This is one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there ominously. With its closed shutter still covered in a blood-like creepy substance, it swallowed the bodies of the 6. Natsuhi putting the new lock on wasn't mainly to preserve the scene for police. She might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent the eerie beast from swallowing any more victims.
さあ行きましょう
Let's go, everyone.
南條先生ご足労をありがとうございました
Thank you very much for your work.
現時は急いで警察に連絡を
Genji, hurry and contact the police. Alright, good night, my dude. We don't have much
戻
scenes
り
left
ま
in
し
this
たら
game.
すぐに連絡します。
Higher circles used for demonic rituals anyway. Circles are drawn because it's always... why are circles always drawn? I don't know. Classic trope for shit. Circles usually represent something in most rituals. Like the circle itself usually represents something. And that's why there's the symbols in it usually mean something as well. If I vaguely recall. The circle itself, it being a circle has meaning. And as well as the shapes inside of it. That's why you'll see like circle with a triangle in it, or like a star in it, or like various other things, because they all usually mean something specific. Because there are ritual patterns that aren't just circles. I will do so as I return. So are they gonna go tell the old man that a bunch of people just died? Like the uncle? Or grandpa? The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn in the shadow kept the 6 bodies in its throat. Blooming eerily as the lightning occasionally lit it up. I wonder if they'll think to tell him. Let's see. How much time passes? 15 minutes. We walk back. Gonna see a short slideshow? Nope. All that could be heard was the sound of the rain, the voices from the kids' TV program Mario was watching, and the engrossed Mario's cackling voice. In other words, what greeted them as they returned dumbfounded for that horrible, bizarre scene was the voice of Maria as she rolled around laughing at the TV. Those who returned to the room didn't know how to explain to Maria that her mother was dead, and they were trapped by a suffocating silence. At first, Maria returned their stares with a dubious look, but when she realized they weren't trying to blame her for anything, she ignored them and immediately immersed herself in the TV program. The children wordlessly sat down heavily on the sofa, their minds probably blank from their state of shock. Everyone had already cried and mourned so much, but now they just vaguely sat there, their faces seeming to have lost all emotion. Only Cannon had returned to his usual calm expression. However, that probably didn't mean he'd been able to wipe out the shock. Nothing was reflected in his eyes as he stared into empty space. Hideyoshi kept on fidgeting, and every time he remembered that horrible scene, he started muttering about how they couldn't believe it, how it couldn't have been something from this world, how it must have been the work of demons. Demons! Every now and then his mutterings produced a question directed at Nanjo, but the latter kept repeating in a calm, doctor-like manner that nothing could be understood by only glancing at the scene. At least Nanjo's being professional, and that until the police arrived, they wouldn't learn anything. However, Nanjo only appeared calm next to Hideyoshi, who simply couldn't suppress his agitation and fear. In fact, Nanjo had also received a huge shock, and his face was a deathly pale. Maybe that atmosphere was why she tried to rise to the challenge and take charge. Natsuhi appeared to be unchanged from her normal attitude, and she briskly gave directions. I will go see father. Genji, contact the police.
かしこまりました。
Certainly.
私も一緒させていただいていいかしら、夏日姉さん。
I wonder if you'd allow me to tag along,
クラ
Natsuhine-san.
ウス兄さんがいなくなった以上、お父様の補佐は私の仕事だもの。
It's Krausny-san's gone. The task of aiding father has been left to me.
その私が夏日姉さんに任せっきりで、ここでくつろいでいるわけにはいかないわ。
Improper of me to relax here while relying entirely on you. Natsuhi was struck speechless by Ava's aggressive move in a situation like this. Again, they're all vultures. She seemed to be claiming that with Kraus dead, the one to take responsibility shouldn't be his wife, but herself the next highly ranked in the family. Or maybe she hadn't been at all happy when Natsuhi took command without reference to her in such an extreme situation. However, even Ava's mind had been blank from shock until a moment ago. She only came to her senses after Natsuhi started giving orders. She's like, wait, yeah, Ava's only paid attention because she's like, wait a minute, someone else is acting? Someone else is doing something? And I haven't manipulated them or insulted them? Give me 1 minute. Do as you like. Natsuhi started walking without saying a word more. Ava followed behind her. As they did, Kumasawa ran into the parlor. She usually wasn't the kind of person to run around. Under normal conditions, most people would have taken her entrance as a sign something was the matter. But because everyone was stricken with shock, they hardly noticed her. Madam? Madam?
夏日姉さんならお父さんのところへ行ったで。
If you're looking for Natsuhine-san, she went to see father.
すぐ戻ってくるやろ。
She'll be back soon.
どないしたんや、熊
What
沢さん。
happened, Kumasawa?
それが食堂に血が
You see, in the dining hall, there was blood. The ears of everyone in the parlor twitched. Everyone thought the same thing. I hope I misheard that. Any container can only hold so much, and no one here would be capable of handling yet another tragedy. So they all thought it. I hope I misheard that.
なんやて?
What happened?
食堂?
In the dining hall?
朝食の準備に
When I went to the dining hall
食堂に
to set up
配
for
膳に行っ
breakfast.
たら
Oh. The first one to start running was George. His harsh footsteps jogged Hideyoshi and Nanjo to their senses, and they chased after him. Unlikely there's any other bodies, unless the old man's dead, but they just saw him. Battler and the others followed. They flew into the dining hall one after another, but they didn't find any change that might have caused Kumasawa to go pale. To those who viewed that gruesome scene in the storehouse, it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, Kumasawa, who had followed them, pointed it out. There really were some traces of blood remaining on the floor. Compared to that terrible scene, it wasn't very impressive. However, if you calmly thought about it, This definitely indicated the loss of a lot of blood.
ここにも血だまりがあ
There's
る。
another puddle over
こ
here.
れは一体
What in the world?
だいぶ時間が経っているように
It appears a great deal of time has
おそら
passed.
く夕べ
It's safe to say they were killed here last night.
いいでしょ
そういうことにな
Looks that way.
わしらは夕べずっと食堂で話し合いをしとった。
We were talking together in the dining hall until late into the
そ
night.
してここに何者かが
After that, someone must have forced their way in.
父さんたちが打ち合わせを抜けて休んだのは
Dad, when did you and Mom slip out of the meeting and go to sleep?
昨夜の24時を
Bit past midnight.
だから
So
その後
we
に
should probably assume
と考えるが
it happened after that.
マジかよ。
Kidding me?
勘弁してく
Give me
れ
a
よ。
break.
お嬢様。
Milady, please stay strong.
これはも
After seeing that
う
hell
さ
on
っ
Earth
き
in
の
the
そう
storehouse,
この世の地獄ってやつ
yeah, this is nothing.
今更このくらい
そうかよ。
Really. Good for you.
私は頭がどうにか
I
なっ
feel
ち
my
まい
head's
そう
gonna
だし
explode.
ここは食堂だぜ
This。is the dining hall, right?
私は毎日ここで食事をして学校のことをぼやいたり宿題のことをぼやいたり
Every day, this is where I eat. Complain about school, complain about homework,
学校の成績
talk to
の
Dad
話
about
を
my
されたり
grades.
そういうところなんだ
That's
ぜ。
what this place is to me.
お嬢様、こ
Milady.
れ以上ここにいるのはよくあり
It
ません。
wouldn't be good to remain here any
客間へ
further.
戻りましょう。
Let's return to the parlor.
俺も同感さ
I
秀
agree.
吉おじさん
Hideyoshi,
この部屋は多分警察にとって重要
this
な
room
意
will
味
be
があると思い
important
ま
to the
す
police.
俺たちが踏み荒らしちまうのは
It'd be bad if we trampled all over it. Battler proposed this in a slightly firm voice as, along with Cannon, he grabbed the pail, shaking Jessica's shoulders.
バトラさんの言う通りですな
Everything is as Battler
この
said.
部屋にこれ以上好んで
There's
居
nothing to
続ける
be
ことはあり
gained
ます
from
まい
remaining here. Nanjo spoke while looking at everyone's pale faces. Even though that horrible scene in the storehouse felt like something not of this world, at least then we'd been able to leave to cut ourselves off from that place and run. Everyone shared that feeling. However, this dining hall was different. It was in the mansion, the main building and state. Where do you think they died? Come on, people don't randomly go to the storehouse. As Jessica had said, it would have been one of the most calming places. It should have been the most calming place, even inside the mansion. It was where all the relatives had eaten lunch and dinner yesterday. The shock of seeing this place smeared with blood reminded us of that horrible spectacle in the storehouse and forced us to accept that we hadn't really been able to run away from that scene of that tragedy.
わしもこの部
I
屋に
agree too.
は犯人の痕跡が残ってるかもわからんし
The
な
culprit may have left traces in the
素
room.
人のわしらがかき回すべきとちゃうで
Amateurs like us shouldn't screw
は
this
よ
up.
出るんや
Let's leave
はよは
quickly.
よ
Quickly. Hideyoshi also understood the meaning of what Battler said and pushed everyone to hurry out of the room. The way we were then, looking at that blood any longer would have been too harsh. Nobody went against his words. Everyone raced out of the dining hall. It was almost as though the last person in the room would be trapped in there all alone. Nurses missing veins. Oh, yeah. I hate when that happens. I've had that happen to me a couple times, too. Once in the hallway, we lent a hand to Kumasawa, who was still trembling and leaning against the wall, and we all headed back to the parlor. And then Genji returned.
源氏さん
Genji?
警察に連絡はつきましたか
Were you able to contact the police?
それが申し訳ございません
I'm afraid I must apologize. The radio's smashed?
無線機の故障かそれ以
I
外
don't know if
の
it
理
was
由によるものかは
failure of the radio or something else that caused it, but
なんや警察に連絡がつかんのか
you couldn't contact the
電
police?
話も無線もどっちもダメなんか
Both the phone and radio failed?
申し訳ございま
My
せん
apologies. I mean, let's be honest. If they cut the phone line, they probably smashed your radio.
月曜の朝に船が来ることになっていますので
A boat will arrive
その
Monday
船
morning.
の通信機を借りる
I
こと
believe we'll be able to
が
borrow
で
their communications equipment.
この島には船はないんか
Isn't there a boat on this island? Nobody's going to be leaving.
新島の警察署までちょっくら行ってくることはできんのか
Can't we take a trip out to the Nijime Police Department?
秀吉さんこの天気
Hideyoshi, with this weather, that's impossible.
少なくとも台風が通り過ぎるまではどうにもなりません
Yeah, at the very least, we can't do anything until the typhoon passes us by.
クラウス様のボートは今修理中で島にございません
Kraus-sama's boat's being repaired and not on the
です
island.
ので
Oh,
月曜
there we
の
go.
船を
Therefore, we must wait for the boat coming on Monday. Oh, so our boat that we actually have isn't even on the island, so even if we wanted to, we couldn't leave. Even if we were in to risk the typhoon. How could this happen? 6 people are dead. The phones and radio aren't working. There's no boat. Yep, Hideyoshi's got it. He's having a bit of a breakdown. So until the typhoon passes and the boat comes, in other words, until tomorrow morning, we're going to be stuck here on this island, unable to contact the police, aren't we? Which means, not just us, but the criminal who killed everyone's confined to this island. That certainly follows. The culprit's still here on the island. The bastard who killed Dad and the others must be hiding somewhere, unable to escape. Yeah, it seems to be the case. Seems to be the case. Who was it? Kraus shuffled the shifts around, but Kraus was killed himself in the same way. So Kraus is probably not responsible for the murder. All of George's family is fine. And I mean, the wife is Ava is particularly venomous. I don't know if she'd kill anyone. That's a bit of a red flag. That's a bit of a red flag. Like, everyone else is losing someone, right? Hold up. People who are dead. I mean, Nazi mental breakdown, killing people. Let's assume that it's like someone killed someone. Okay. George probably wouldn't kill Shin unless he had to. Like, she stumbled where she wasn't supposed to be. That said, I don't think George could have changed the shifts, and he knew she was there. We don't know enough about Nanjo or Genji. So if we were like doing process of elimination for murder, like, these guys look suspicious because all 3 of them are in good health. Right? All 3 of them are suspicious they're in good health. Jessica hates her parents, but she made a connection with her mother that kept her alive. That's a little bit unusual. Her dad's dead. Battler doesn't like his dad, but also has like very little reason to kill everyone. Lack of motive, lack of ability. And we don't know enough about everyone else. So, murderers, like, these 2 stand to benefit from these guys dying. If we were just going to say standard murder mystery, these 2 stand to benefit a lot from this. One or both of them could be a killer. And Natsuhi stands to gain, but she seems to be unaware because we had a first-person perspective thing and she was, like, shocked, right? We had first-person perspective telling us Natsuhi is not the killer because she wasn't aware that there was anything going wrong, right? Yeah, the band. Yep. Damn it. Yep. I'll catch him. Wait, I'm handing him over to the police. I'll slice it to bits myself. Good luck. Maria finally realized something odd was happening in the parlor. Rather than noticing something odd, it was probably better to say she felt unhappy and neglected since everyone was getting so excited about something only she didn't know about. Jessica Onecha. Did someone die? The way she spoke was completely calm, as though she was talking about someone who appeared on a TV drama, as though it was someone else's problem. Jessica probably didn't like that, as though trying to say, "Can't you tell by looking at me?" Overwhelmed with grief, she flared up at Maria. They all died, everyone. My dad and Battler's parents. Goda-san and Shin. Even your mom's dead. Stop it, Jessica. You're not the only one who's sad. Maria. I know this will come as a shock, but please listen. Your mother has died. Mom, she's just like, Mama died? Oh. Yeah, someone killed her. I know it's sad, but stay strong. How many people?
何人死んじゃった？
Her first thought is, how many people died? Maria's the one who's obsessed with the occult, so if 6 people died, she's gonna be like, hello?
6人だぜ。
Yep, Marukanin. 6 people?
6人だ。くそ。
6 people.
あんな
Damn
残
it.
酷なことしやがって。
How could anyone do something that
踊
cruel?
ってもんがあるだろうがよ。人間
There's a
なら
limit to how cruel you can be if you're human.
誰だか知らねえが、犯人は人間じゃねえぜ。
I don't know who it is, but the culprit isn't
血の
human.
色が赤いわけがねえ。
There's no way their blood's red. Oh,
犯人は人間じゃない。
the culprit isn't human.
鍵が選んだ生贄なだけ。
It's just the people chosen by the ritual. The sacrifice is chosen by the ritual, right?
Wait.
Wait, Maria? Maria.
今、なんて言った？
Did you say something right now? Maria just said something, but since the words were so remotely separated from the flow and context of the conversation, I couldn't understand them for a second. When I tried to ask her to repeat it, I was shocked by the sudden sound of Aunt Natsuhi's loud voice coming from the entrance. It looked like Aunt Natsuhi and Ava had returned from their trip to see grandfather.
無線でも連絡できない？
Can't contact them? Even with the radio?
こんな時に使えなくて何のための防災無線ですか？
Can't use it? At a time like this, why do you even have a radio?
申し訳ございません。
My
毎
apologies.
年、保守点検は
It
さ
was
せている
supposed to have a
はずなの
maintenance
です
inspection every year.
ほら、光をチカチカさせるみたいな船舶信号ってあるじゃない？
Does she have one of those boat signaling devices that makes a flashing light? We are way too
そ
far
うい
out.
うので向こうの島に連絡することはでき
Can
な
use
いの
that
か
to
しら？
contact the next island?
そのような設備はございません。
We do not have such equipment.
申し訳ございません。
My sincere apologies. Just then, Kumasawa arrived, pushing a serving cart loaded with breakfast. Since there was no way we would be able to eat in the dining hall, Hideyoshi ordered her to take it to the parlor.
なぜ朝食をこちらに？
Why are we eating breakfast here?
ああ、夏日さん。
Natsuhi-san.
それは後で話す。
I'll tell you later.
それよりエヴァ、お父さんはどうなんや？
More importantly, Eva, how is father?
ご一緒でないところを見ると、
Judging by the fact he's not with you,
このような事態になっても、
it seems he won't leave his room even for a situation like this.
いないわ。
He wasn't
部屋
there.
は空っぽだったのよ。
The room was empty.
なんやて？こんな時にどこ行ったんや？
Where could he have gone at a time like this?
親方様が書斎を出られたというのです
You mean
か？
to say the master has left his study? Yeah, I heard the splash. The drop of water. Something has changed. I assume it's gray. It's gray. He's missing. Yep. Disappeared from his study unnoticed. Kinzo's study has everything from a bed to a toilet to a bathtub. It's extremely rare for him to go outside. However, he does occasionally go out for a walk on a whim without telling anyone, and his disappearance invariably leads to a huge uproar throughout the house. He usually comes back as soon as he gets hungry. Usually. He shouldn't be dead yet, right? He shouldn't be dead yet. He might be killed tonight, but I don't think he's dead yet.
そうです。
That's correct.
私も驚いています。
I was surprised
い
myself.
つの間に部屋を出たのやら。
I wonder when he left his
あ
room.
なたたちに
Do
心
any
当
of you
た
have
り
an
はない
idea?
のですか？
You're the last one who knew where he was, Natsuhi. Natsuhi looked at Genji and Kanon as she said this. Maybe she's trying to ask whether the servants who served directly under the one-winged eagle knew of a place he might go to. However, it was probably the other way around. Their faces made it clear those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than the rest how impossible it was for him to leave his room.
僕たちにも見当がつきません。
Even we have no idea.
ご存知の通り、親方様はあの書斎の中に、
As you all know,
お
within that
休みの
study,
場所からご不浄
the
な
master had
全
everything
て
from
を
a
設けさせま
bed
した。
to a bathroom.
親方様があの部屋をお出になることなど
I can't imagine him leaving that place except for a significant
考えられ
reason.
ません。
となると、
In that case,
なんや
what?
そのよっぽどのことがあったって考えるのが
Isn't it natural to assume one of those significant reasons came up?
まだそうと決まったわけで
Can't
はあり
be
ません。
certain. I can't be certain that's the case.
とにかく気まぐれな方で
He's
す
a
から
fickle person.
現状をご存知なくお
possible.
一人で散歩をされている可能性もあります。
Possible he went for a walk by himself, unaware of the current
仮に
situation.
そうだとしたら
If that's the
一刻も
case,
早く現状をお知らせして
we must
ご
act
指
in
示
all
を
haste
仰
to
が
tell him
ね
what
ばなりま
happened
せ
and
ん。
ask for instructions.
そうね。
That's
考
right.
えたくはないけど。 お父様の身に何かあったのかもしれないしね。
Though I don't want to think about it, it's possible something has happened to him, isn't it?
そのような不吉なことは考えたくもありません。
I'd rather not consider such a sinister possibility. No one had seen Kinzo since the discovery of those 6 terrible corpses. On top of that, the phones were broken, the radio couldn't reach anyone, and there's no way to contact the police. Apparently, the typhoon would leave tomorrow and a boat would come. But until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor could they escape the island. The tragedy had hit everyone so abruptly they'd lost all their composure. Everyone felt a heavy silence. Everyone was impatient. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. So some of them held their heads in their arms while others got irritated. Right now, no one could explain what was occurring on this island, Rokkenjima. At least there's breakfast now. That's all I can say. At least there's breakfast. And with that, I think we're going to have to ramp things up. We know the current state of things. The master of the house is missing. 6 people are dead. And nobody has a clue what's going on, as we can't even contact the outside world. It has been exciting, but I'm afraid we'll have to continue this on the next time.